Right, we're back with episode 54 of the Midnight Pod. It is the year, well, I guess it's year in review we're calling it now. Is that wine fucking disgusting?
It tastes like it's been out for a while.
It's not, it's brand new. It's brand new from Gorillas about 10 minutes ago. Last episode of the year is 28th of December. We're joined with Lucy, who is the
Go on, I want to see how you
brains behind a lot of the podcasts, I suppose. And also does a lot of stuff for me on Space Goods. We've actually never met prior to today, even though I feel like I've told you more about my life than my own mum. You've become a
counsellor.
A therapist as much as a member of the team, and a very good one at that. And yeah, nice to have you here on the pod.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And we're going to mix it up a little bit. I guess we kind of got 3 co-hosts today, sort of. And we're just doing a bunch of... You've come up with what? A bunch of questions and general topics to review the year with. And then we have a few questions from viewers of the pod, which I left about half an hour before we put the question out. Not with enough time, basically. But we've got a lot of questions, so...
Yeah. So
we'll see where we go with it. And you can just chime in a little bit here and there. I mean,
I got told off for apparently taking over the Connor one. That was my feedback. He said that everyone said it was really good, but I took over too much. So,
well, yeah, I guess the whole thing with the pod then is it's never an interview. I hate when people say we interview people or I interview people.
It's a discussion.
I never want it to be an interview. It's a mutual discussion that has a base theme, which is the guest. You know what I mean? And then just conversation in it. And we are back on the wine as well. We did whiskey in the last episode, which I was not a fan of. Sorry, Jason. It was a very kind gesture, but
it's a heavy drink whiskey.
It's a heavy drink. I was just like throbbing headache halfway through, and I felt quite angry. Whereas wine's a different sort of mood.
Although, like, wine out of the mugs is interesting.
It's the most male flat in London. We don't have any fucking glasses at all. So, yeah, standard practice.
Okay, I'm just going to go straight in then.
Where do you want to start?
So, I mean, it's quite a cliche question, to be honest, but you can both answer it. One thing that you
Is this all just about the year, sorry? Or just in general?
So, some of it's about the year, and then some of it's more, like, general about, well, looking to next year, founding a business.
A lot of the questions on the questions thing were just random. Someone coming through the ceiling.
Going next.
A lot of the ones on the normal questions were just random questions as well, which we could do. Yeah.
Sweet.
Deep.
Well, one thing that you both wish you knew at the start of the year that you knew now, or know now rather, business-wise.
Don't trust supplement lead times. That'd be one that springs to mind. Although that's a very boring answer. There's something I didn't know at the start of the year.
Yeah, like is there something you kind of learnt this year that would have been useful to know?
Well, I mean, it's probably an obvious one that I always knew, but has become more and more obvious, is that I can't do it all myself. And like to an even greater extent, which you've been saying for years, and you're much better at that. I'm just not good at hiring. Like, it takes me ages to even trust people. And like the good people now in the small team that I do have come to me, really, because you DM me on Twitter.
No, you tweeted and I replied to it.
Yeah, that to me though is that works better in my head than me trying to go out and like hire someone. It kind of feels forced. Whereas if I don't know, if it comes out through like a genuine, I would like to be involved.
Yeah, because it's like genuine interest, right?
Same with Florian, who does the customer service. Like, I literally couldn't run the business without him if he was watching. It's like so good. But he just came from watching the pod.
Yeah, you're gonna get more buy-in from those people. Yeah, and they're usually going to be pretty switched on if they're on Twitter in D2C. You don't consume a lot of D2C Twitter unless you're fairly
money Twitter.
Unless you're fairly switched on, or money Twitter even. So you're going to find decent people. You should probably double down on that. Like you've done it passively, but why not like
actively pursue it? Actively
try, and if you've got a role. I said this to you the other day because you're looking for that COO person, aren't you? You probably you're definitely better trying to find that from Twitter or something. Unless you're going to go for someone who's like mad experienced, who's done the exact same role at another company, which is also an option, I guess. But leverage the audience even further. I think building an audience is probably one of the power of content, and building a personal brand of some form is one thing that I didn't appreciate at the start of the year.
Yeah, I agree actually.
Around whatever you've obviously done it around a brand, I've done it around a service, but then the benefit to us is more tangible, I guess, because you get like you get the odd, you get customers through it, but we get like clients which are a lot higher value. Probably that. I think communication. I think I've got a lot better at communicating over the last year. I think that's like obviously fundamental skill, but it's like just like having difficult conversations when you have to have them, and just communicating in general, getting things off your plate, helping people when they have a problem, being transparent with things like that. I think that was something I wasn't very good at the start of the year, which I've noticed the power of that as well. And what else? Probably expecting things to break if you try and grow them too fast. That's a problem as well. And growing things a bit slower so they don't break.
Yeah.
Definitely had that for a period of time. Those are probably the main things. A bit like not as black and white, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely second the personal brand thing, because I'm like the anti-personal brand, because I don't want to be seen as like a guru or someone that fucking forces it, which I feel like 99% of personal brands do, including yours, because you have a fucking ghostwriter.
I don't anymore. I got on for like 2 weeks and they were rubbish, so I got rid of them.
I literally see
don't
Dons
think
just tweeting platitudes that have been said 100,000 times.
I never did that. That's why they wrote a load of tweets and I was like, I can't put these out.
It's even worse when it's actually not a ghostwriter writing it and it looks like one. Like,
I think you can get away with that on LinkedIn.
Certain people I'm thinking of.
But you can't get away with it on Twitter.
Probably does work though, because...
It does. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought the other day, and there's probably a few questions which are relevant to this, like, I should definitely, when we've been speaking about it, I should definitely monetize my personal brand more, because there's a lot of like stuff that people could get out of it that just haven't bothered to like do, i.e. like the fucking events and, you know, that sort of stuff. Even just like the econ course.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't push it at all, even though I should.
I don't really push it that hard. I did for the start of the year, but I haven't recently. It's just like people will be able to get a lot of value from it, because you don't need to know that much more than someone to be valuable to them.
Yeah,
like 10%
that's
more
definitely
is like the rule.
A shift. And a personal brand is just a modern CV, really, isn't it?
It's also
like, obviously not everyone's. You don't have to be on, like, you don't have to have a big following to be successful, but
I think it's a bit of an insurance policy as well. Like, your business could fail, but
worst case, just shill a course.
Exactly. But if you build a personal brand and people know you for what you've built, then it's very easy to go and pick something else up. Or
Yeah,
pick up
I agree with that.
My opportunity with Connor and doing what I'm doing with him came through Twitter, and I met him through that, and I wouldn't have met him if I didn't start putting content out. Same with the second agency we launched, that came through that pretty much.
Yeah.
You just get opportunities. Then it's about saying no to not saying yes to too much, which is another problem. Like I'm at my limit now. I can't do anything more. I'm just just like no more stuff for the next year.
That is true. Then it's like create over consume, because most people, even people that are running businesses, like, and that's where the whole like pool party social club thing came from, which someone has asked me a question on that, and it's like everyone wants to like meet up or whatever. It's almost like fucking dating, but no one's willing to like say it, because we're all like internet friends, but actually you could make real life connections as well. Do you know what I mean? And having a good, just having that credibility and context on who you are.
But networking is massive.
Like, even people that said they'd never do a personal brand that I know have definitely started to jump on it a little bit more, because it's just so obviously beneficial. Even doesn't have to be financially, but just like meeting people, building a reputation.
But even hiring, right? Because the better your personal brand, the more people you're going to find on places like Twitter that want to work for you.
Yeah.
So you're going to get better talent as well.
Definitely, yeah. The better, like you said, the better talent will come to you, and it's all part of like a funnel, like a marketing funnel for everything, whether it's people or a service.
I also think as well, myself included, a lot of people, and just in general, are just scared to put their like true self on the internet, because they have to uphold this perception. And to me, honestly, like, I probably refrained from putting certain content out on the internet before, because I thought maybe it might affect how a girl looks at me, rather than like it, because it might, while it might be appealing to like an investor, if I'm talking about, I don't know, fucking failed business in the past, like, even though it's probably the most toxic way to look at it, like, oh, what if this girl looks at it? Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas actually, you may as well just be yourself, because you're going to find out anyway.
You are money Twitter's most transparent man.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, if it's the right girl, this is not like a relationship podcast, but if it's the right girl, she won't care. Like, no, I know.
What it's been missing.
We're definitely, actually, I have an idea for an episode in general. We can probably do it at the end of this, but just get like 3 guys and 3 girls in and just completely switch it up. Like, you know, there's ones in America, like what's the one called that's really famous?
I don't know the name, but I know what you're
Fresh and Fit.
I know the one you mean. I think
Fresh and Fit, and it's like loads. It's like in like Miami or some shit. It's very American. But I was listening to one on the train coming down here, and it's always interesting. But anyway, that's enough on that question.
But then, so I actually have a question about your sharing on the internet generally, because you always say it's net positive. But is there anything you like regret sharing this year, or is there anything that you wish you hadn't shared?
Probably wish I'd spoke about my ex-girlfriend less because at the time. But at the time it was relevant.
Yeah, it's a growth lesson. But, I don't share. I just don't share to the level Matt shares. To be fair, just because I use it as a different tool, and like I don't think it would be beneficial to what we do for me to do that, and I just don't. It's just not my way of venting. Everyone needs to get it out in some way. So no, nothing from my side. I don't think anyway. Anything from? You've already said your regret.
Apart from your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably argue that. I know you even had people say this to me recently. Like, maybe I'm too honest about the non-successful parts of even like just building a brand, because someone could argue, well, that could put off, I don't know, an investor, a person, whatever. But then it's going to come out eventually. Like the if you just tell the truth, no one's ever got any dirt on you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just the way I operate.
It's arguably like an easier life. Long term, it's less unexpected, right?
Yeah, 'cause so many people seem so obsessed with keeping up appearances, and maybe that's actually way more profitable, and it probably is. At least if they're like shilling courses and shit. But eventually, like, there's going to be some scandal that reveals the truth. So if you're just honest,
also builds more trust in you if you do sell something to someone, because like if you're going to if you went to sell a course to someone off the back of a very transparent personal brand, then it's very
just
like,
trusting,
because
everything you do is more authentic.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think if there's anything. I do think for the key to other people obviously jumping on the bandwagon, we just talk about this with other people doing that kind of build series. I think it's fine to do as soon as you've got like a big enough like moat that people can't just rip your product idea and do it.
Yeah, people have said that to me actually. Quite a few people.
It's just so much easier said.
Are you not worried that someone's just going to rip you?
Easier said than done.
I'm just like, no, because ideas are so. Just a million ideas. Doesn't mean they're going to go and do it. And I also think in a way, if you're so publicly the founder and it's authentically you are clearly the one that like started that, whatever it is, gradient packaging powder, then it's like someone would have to have some big balls to rip you off, because it's so evidently not their idea. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And especially got a following. Like if someone ripped me off, I'd just call them out. And it would be like their reputation's ruined.
Happens in SaaS sometimes where people overshare on their idea and then someone with more resource just rips it in like a quarter of the time and takes it to market and makes all the money before they can. But it's much harder. I think it's much harder to do for a brand that's. Your brand's very creative. If it was something with low, you don't see any drop shippers going like, oh, this is my whole marketing plan and supply chain infrastructure, because obviously someone just goes and rips it and out markets them. But I think it's hard to do that for an actual brand with a vision.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so for this year, your proudest accomplishment?
Well, it's funny because I was looking back at it's when you go home for Christmas and shit. That's like the one. It always feels like every year flies by. And I was a bit me thinking nothing's changed, but then you actually look at the facts and quite a lot has changed. I don't know. I feel like that the marathon was quite.
Quite a good one.
What's the word? Quite. What's the fucking word?
Monumental, like a.
I was just gonna say like. I don't even know. Monumental.
Glorious.
It was quite.
I don't know.
What's the fucking word I'm looking for? I guess it was a good marker. I don't know. I just like I'd got into telling myself I wasn't a runner, and I don't know. I just liked the fact that it was away from a screen rather than just purely chasing numbers on a screen. So, and it was like the principles in that I think tie over into anything. You know, just focus, discipline, consistency, time. Yeah. So it was probably the most clear goal I set. I did set a goal to do 1 million with the new brand. Done that as well, which is quite cool. Because it's easy to say that, but then you actually go and do it, and it's like the ultimate alchemy, isn't it? Because it's nice to know I could do it again. Because I fucking lost my confidence big time when shit went tits up the other year. That's just the truth. But it's nice to know it's not a fluke, and you can actually start again and do it again, like the 0 to 1 million, which a lot of people say is the hardest part, which I'm not sure, not convinced it is, because I've got there a few times and struggled to get much further past it. But yeah, probably the marathon, but there are a few others.
Yeah, I didn't do any fitness stuff this year. I did it I was into it for the first half of the year, then just let it slide. So that's part of my next year, is doing some actual like more offline shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mine's probably like we hit all of the targets we set for both the agencies, which is good. We've just got a lot of people now. I find that the most like quite rewarding part of the agency side is the people. Like we hire a lot of our people with no experience and train them to be like really good at the job. So like we've got like something like nearly 50 people across the two companies, which is actually a lot of people.
Yeah.
For 25, I find it a lot of people. Maybe in like 5 or 10 years it wouldn't be that many, but I think that's quite a cool accomplishment to have a team that big that's working like effectively.
What do you look for, like, in those people if they're not skilled to do the job when you hire? What's the like number one thing? You can take notes.
we have like we hire for culture fit first. So like the reason for this is because like you can, especially now, you can teach people Facebook ads pretty quickly. You can teach people creative strategy. You can teach people like post-click optimization. You can, and like those things, like there's a lot of very good resources that help you teach them that. And then you also just get them to shadow someone who's much more senior than them, and they pick up the skills over time. So if you've got a really structured onboarding and roadmap to training someone, like you can bring someone in and ramp them to really proficient in like 3 to 6 months, and then just like obviously hold the hand as they get onto the work. So it's a lot easier to teach that, but you can't fundamentally teach someone to be like motivated, self-aware, proactive, curious, like just like have those fundamental character traits. Like it's a lot easier to teach someone Facebook ads than it is to teach someone to be a proactive person.
Yeah.
So we go and hire people who are fundamentally like switched on, growth mindset, proactive individuals, then we teach them the skills. So like more soft skill. So we'll do like a culture fit interview, then we'll do like a test basically, and then we'll do like a more practical thing, and it works really well. Obviously you got to have like skilled senior people for that to work, but most companies probably do. And not every business we do. Not interestingly, for the company that we're building with Connor, it's the way we're going about hiring is a lot more like just hiring people who are like some of the best people you can get in each position, just because of the different structures. But it's worked really well for us. I'd rather have someone who's like soft skills are great than someone who's really proficient at a role. If you have the infrastructure to train them, which you probably need a mixture of the two. Well, you sounds like you've hired loads of people who already come in and smash the job because they've got experience. Yeah.
Like me.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with anything.
So you need a bit of a mixture.
But what do you look? What's like the thing that you would look for there? Like when you're like people in your Twitter DMs or whatever.
Well,
like,
honestly, instinctively, just someone that I probably get on with for a start. Because if we don't get on, we're never going to be able to work together. So that's probably why I'm maybe subconsciously super honest. It's almost like a test. It's like if I can't just fucking be myself around them, then maybe that's a very unprofessional way of doing things. But
no, but you spend so much of your time at work, you may as well be with people you like, especially if it's your company, right?
That's part of the culture fit thing.
Yeah.
Like we'll hire, part of that is like, do we like you as a person? And I feel like gut feeling is big as well. People underestimate gut feeling.
The one thing for me is like, do I actually feel like they can just do it without me having to even be involved, which is a nice surprise. Because in the past, I felt like I had to handhold everyone.
You probably need someone who can do that hand-holding process for people for a period of time when they join, because it's very hard to just be like, you go own this, and I'm not going to give you anything, which is what you're trying to find, I guess.
Yeah.
Then I think it works the other way as well. Like if you're looking for work or looking to work for someone, I wouldn't want to work for someone that I don't like respect or think is a good human, like, you know, generally.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, it's like who you surround yourself with, right? It's the whole, like, I think that's been said like literally a million times, but being a product of who you work with and who you surround yourself with. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that one.
No,
You
it's
spend
true.
70% of your time there, so
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Oh, there's a good one in the questions from...
So, are you going through all yours first? How are you doing it?
No,
Or
I'm
you just
literally
doing
going...
a general Q&A.
They were all
theme
mine,
thing?
but now I'm just going to go through there's some good ones from, I think it's Instagram. Who is the number one person you've looked up to and learned from this year?
Does that be someone you know?
No?
I mean, yeah, to be honest, it probably is people I know. It's probably 2 of my investors particularly. I'd probably say Alex and Jimmy, because I would probably speak to them the most. They are financially the most successful people I know, which is probably correlates with their ability. They're older and wiser than me. And yeah, probably learnt a lot from both of them in different ways. I mean, Jimmy obviously built a D2C business and sold it, which is exactly what I'm trying to do. And Alex built a massive SaaS business and sold it for like 9 figures. So they've properly been there and done that. Yeah, probably them. Amongst sprinklings from plenty of other people as well. But they're probably 2 names that spring to mind.
They're both solid. Both solid. I don't know. Mine are different for different areas. I guess like who do you look up to and who I consume content for an outcome is probably different. Like I've consumed a lot of different people's content, but I wouldn't say I necessarily, because they're really, really good at what they do, but I wouldn't say like I idolise them as a person. I don't know actually. So like people I've put like
David
Alex
Goggins,
like Alex,
as well.
Alex Hormozy. I consume so much of his stuff because he's just ridiculously switched on. I watched my first million podcast. I find them both really insightful and interesting because they both sold massive businesses multiple times. There's a few people on Twitter. There's like Cody Plopka who runs Jones Road Beauty.
That's why he got a lot of shit, 'cause it's like his mum's business or some shit.
Yeah, but it's absolutely massive, and just the content he puts out is really high level and good, and you can learn a lot from it. So he's really good. So yeah, there's a lot of people who consume content for who I guess you'd look up to for what they've achieved. And then yeah, you've got like the Goggins ones of the world. He's just kind of ever
I like
present.
Goggins' mindset.
Andy Frisella still.
Yeah, class.
Although he's become a bit of a political preacher over the last like.
Don't follow him as much these days, to be fair.
No. But yeah, there's probably a few.
Okay, and like looking to next year more, like the biggest problem you can see on the horizon.
You've got no stop, mate.
Yeah.
That's nearly solved. What in life or?
Well, you can interpret it however, but I guess for the businesses, but also maybe in life. Probably linked, no?
My biggest problem is I'd probably fall in love with a new girl and she'll fucking distract me for 6 months. That's just the honest truth. Few will admit that. I have a habit of doing that.
Yeah, you do. High risk in all areas.
I think the other biggest risk, I probably try and Chad scale too quick again, which is just a habit I have, and I don't want to make that same mistake again of trying to go too quick and just breaking shit. So I'm very impatient.
We did that as well. Go too fast, things break. It's just
Like even in the past month, I've had to really look at things and be like, okay, I probably would actually be more sensible if I slowed down a bit and focused on other things rather than just growing revenue. So that's probably instinctually the 2 things. And yeah, plenty of others, but
what are mine? When you're relying on obviously the economy's part of it, but like you just can't really do much about that.
yeah, I hate even speaking about that
It's
shit.
just
Everyone's telling me
pointless.
the world's going to
Can't
end.
even like look at it. I don't know. I feel like the SOAR as an agency is pretty like the growth path for that seems pretty simple. It doesn't like it's just build more awareness and hire more people who are good.
He's gonna fucking get about £1 million in revenue from this. That one episode we did, I swear I should have put an affiliate link on that.
I I don't
That's the
really
thing with
talk like that
agencies.
much.
The AOV is so high. Like this
Yeah.
audience is perfect.
That one.
Wait, someone needs to sponsor the pod.
We could sponsor the pod, but I just soft sell's better, isn't it?
AKM sponsored it, but they never fucking paid me the referral fee, so I took their link out.
Ruthless.
Hate to say it.
I think not having the right, not being able to make the right hires when we need to. We really need to hire some people really quickly to keep the growth path that we've been going on at Tev, like as soon as humanly possible, which you don't really want to be in a position where you hire out of like need or necessity. You want to hire from a place of like having time to make the right decision. So kind of having to make that work in the short term's probably the biggest problem, but it's not really that, it's not impossible. Obviously we can leverage some of our agency resources as part of that, so it's not too bad, but that's probably the biggest thing. And then maybe TikTok getting banned if that happens. I don't see that won't happen, but
just can't see how something on that scale gets banned. Like,
it got regulated, but you can't get banned. It surely just gets sold to US. Well, it already did do that, didn't it? Or did it not go through?
I mean, it got banned where I live in Hong Kong.
I should definitely know this. Have you been on Chinese TikTok? It's nuts.
but you have.
On a VPN. It's wild.
You have to go on a VPN to post my shit, no?
A desktop VPN as well. You can't even do a mobile
Really?
VPN. Yeah.
It's wild when you go on there. Like every third video is like it comes up with a thing saying, "Are you sure you want to be on the app?"
Really?
And it's all educational.
Fucking hell.
And it's
fair
like,
play.
it's like I feel like they've just
communism or genius.
They've released this like serotonin weapon on the West, and then just like limited it for themselves. It's mad. It's banned it.
That's a good way of putting it. Serotonin weapon. Fucking hell,
Dopamine
it's kinda
weapon.
deep.
Dopamine weapon. Sorry. Like where
What's the difference between dopamine and serotonin? Is serotonin happiness, dopamine's pleasure or something?
Yeah, I think so.
It's something. I'm not a
It's
scientist.
it's fast action dopamine, isn't it? When you get like scrolling through the videos, and that's why people become
I
like.
don't go on TikTok. I've got a blockage on my phone and I can't go on it.
Why? Because
I can't.
Because like
I've blocked myself.
Doesn't trust himself.
Oh really?
It was like months ago I did this. Yeah.
I've never really because I live somewhere it's banned. I've never really had it, so I don't. But I feel like I don't need it because
it's definitely worse than Instagram. As in, like, it's more addictive.
Yeah, it's just full of crap as well. It's just like, it's funny. I don't have it either. I've not had it for like 3 or 4 months, which is a bit weird.
The baby's head candle has melted to a dangerous extent, so I've blown it out. That was a Christmas present.
You're not.
Clearly not the highest quality wax.
Oh, you are recording.
Yeah, of course I am.
Sorry. Shouldn't doubt your skills as a host.
Okay, I've still got like 23 questions. There is one.
We're only half an hour in, so there better be a lot more questions so we can drag them out.
Oh, there's a lot more questions, don't worry. Any plans, this one's for Matt, any plans for Pool Party Social Club in 2023?
Yes, well...
Look at the grin.
This was another one of my random... I'm very good at having a random spark of an idea, then designing a logo and a website and then not doing anything with it for months. I used to do that with brands all the time. I've literally still got a folder of... If anyone wants to buy a brand idea of me, I should start selling that, like, done for you, brand launch. But yeah, the whole idea of that was basically just broadly, loads of people online, we have this community, why don't we do something in person, basically. That was the broad idea of it at first. And then I started thinking, we should all fucking buy a mansion together, because I got overexcited while drunk in Marbella in this sick mansion. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if the pod audience could buy this mansion between us? Then I didn't really consider the logistics, even though it could be done, but that would be like the next step. So then, long story short, I decided that the first step is probably going to be some sort of Discord community, which is pending, so look out for that. The second step is the in-person events. I feel like the third step is actually buying mansions together, which could genuinely be done, but let's just start with level 1 and 2. And then the fourth step, long term, I think we could actually make a venture capital fund from like a podcast audience. And like, I actually think about that. If we keep doing the pod, grow it to fucking million subscribers, everyone puts in 100 quid, we've got £100 million fund, hypothetically. And then we start, like, I honestly think that is how things will be done in the future and going forward. You know, things are moving more and more towards creator and community led and so on. But a lot of creator audiences aren't particularly like affluent or intelligent, whereas I think our audience is pretty niche in that respect. Like, the majority of people that watch this are business owners or aspiring business owners. So yeah, that's a long answer for yes. the first 2 things will be coming in like the next month. We're going to do an event in London. We're going to do one in Bali like next week. So I just randomly thought, fuck it. It's a classic case actually of me thinking, I got this idea, I really want to do it, but I'm worried that if I launch it and it's not very good, then what will people think, blah, blah, blah. And it's complete hypocrisy based on what I just said like 10 minutes ago about just doing it anyway. So yes, I'm going to force myself to do the first event, because once I've done the first one, it's like doing the first podcast episode. Once you do the first one, you get a bit of feedback. Probably won't be perfect. Then we'll do plenty more. But ultimately, yeah, the whole broad idea of it is it's just a fucking cool name to describe a fucking, what did I say online? I think it's an in-person and online community for creative, ambitious people or something.
There's not very many of them in the UK that we were going to do.
And the ones that do exist, even outside the UK, in my opinion, are very like nerdy and not actually that cool.
I thought Geek Out's really good, to be honest. I learned a lot there. You went to it and then didn't say anything.
Well, I wasn't thinking Geek Out, but I think Geek Out's probably a bit more specialist, like knowledge focused. Whereas to me, I just want to basically have an excuse to fucking send with interesting people. That's honestly it, because that is where I've that's where I've done the best networking in my life. Is just getting loose in foreign countries. So if we can monetize that somehow and at least just have it pay for itself, that's really the baseline goal.
You can make events profitable pretty easily with an affluent audience. You just got to make sure that they over deliver on the value, like anything. Like if someone's going to come to it, like it's like it's specialist that event, but it's like people, like some people will want to come for the reasons you just mentioned, but some people will want to, a lot of people who come to this will want to come to fundamentally take things away that they can action. Obviously network is one big thing, but like depending on how expensive it is, I guess if we're probably not going to do that expensive, but like if you're going to put on a proper, I think there's a massive value and I wanted to do this and we still might do it, of having like an e-commerce event in the UK at quite a high ticket price, because
that's basically we could do
it. You could spin it off that. Like obviously what you're talking about is more of like a networking event where it's more like drinks, food, whatever. I think there's still massive value in like like an educational event that has that side of it, because it's pretty well serviced in the US, but it's not very well serviced here, and that's a bit like it's still a massive market of people. And also there's value in like making it slightly higher price just by design, like default increases the quality of attendee usually. Like most things, obviously you don't want to price people out, and that's not what I'm saying, but like if something's $5,000, then the people who come usually you can guarantee are going to be quite high level, because they're willing to spend that money as long as you make the event good enough. We looked into that, we just didn't have the bandwidth last year to do it, and I still don't have the bandwidth to do it now, but I'd love to do it. I think it'd be good fun.
Yeah, I also just want to do it in exotic locations, which is why it was called Pool Party, because I've always felt most at home in a wavy shirt in a palm tree-esque location working on a laptop. That's where like the whole thing started. That's where I met people originally, like Bali and shit. So we would do like London, Marbella, Barcelona, Dubai, Bali probably.
I'm not good at this.
So that's the broad plan.
I watched your.
But again, I just need to fucking do the first thing really instead of talking about. I've got an email list with 2,500 people on it that signed up, interested in that.
That's a lot of people on the email list.
There's a lot of dons. Yeah.
Oh, he's just poured me like a pint of wine.
That's a lot of wine.
So we've got 2,500 people on the list. I just need to do something with it, because there's a lot of people that are interested in the concept, and I get messages on it daily. Like, when the fuck is this actually happening? So I should probably just do the first one on a small scale test, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, when are you going to do it? When are we going to do it? You, me, I don't know.
I think you've got to do the first one within the next like 6 weeks.
I think February, start of February.
And do it in London. So, because London's just the easiest place to start. Granted, it won't exactly be exotic. There'll be no palm trees, but...
Yeah, you say you're most at home in exotic palm tree locations. You've sat in a flat in London for the last 7 months.
Yeah, I know. Christ. I'll probably never come back from Bali tomorrow.
Yeah, you're going. Yeah, I think that'll be good. I think there'll be a lot of people who will come. And then as long I could just run it every quarter, and then as we improve it, probably spin off more stuff. I think the Discord is valuable as well, as long as it's structured, and the value is the people you have in it really, and also people turning up to the things. Like if you're going to put content on Q&As, like have people actually come into them, because that's when you get the most value of it. Because We're in 2 masterminds, I think, and they're a bit like I don't mind them, but the one of them's turned into the fact that every time I turn up for a call, and rather than me getting value from it, they just ask me loads of questions, which is therefore like, why am I really a part of this? But I think you should always be part of something like that. It's just the fastest way to learn is to surround yourself with people who have already done what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you, you're saying about like the first time you do something, how do you get over that though? Because I feel like that's something that everyone struggles with, right? Doing something for the first time is like scary. So what makes you actually do it?
Just accept it's not going to be as good as you want it to be, and know that you need feedback to make something better. So it differs depending on what it is. Like launching a business, you should always just try and go fairly fast. Like people try and perfect something before getting proof of concept, so then you spend loads of money doing something that might not work, which is stupid. And like obviously some businesses you need to. For something like an event, I think it's just like launch it, make sure it's pretty well planned and decent, and then get feedback and ask people for feedback so you can make it better every time. Feedback loops are the most important thing, like getting feedback from everywhere.
Yeah, and you also, when you've done something else for the first time, like start a business, for example, then like starting a new thing for the first time, it's still the first time, but you've done the first thing before with something else, so you have a bit more context. I suppose when it's your very first time trying anything, you just got to fucking have some balls and do it, and just realise that anyone that's fucking judging you or hating on you has probably never done anything or will ever do anything with their life anyway. So, including the cunt that said my rapping was shit, I'd like to see you rap after 2 bottles of wine in Marbella, 1 take on a song you've never heard before. Just DM me and we can arrange a live call to do that.
Maybe you could start money Twitter rap battles.
Yeah, legit. I'll happily do a rap battle with anyone. Live. We could do that at the first event.
That'd be a sight. Like a Wayfly event all over again.
Yeah, fucking hell. Some people take shit way too seriously. So I'm very self-deprecating. I can put some shit up. I'm not trying to be fucking Drake. It's not my debut album. Although I would back myself to make an album if I really wanted to. But yeah.
Okay, this is another audience question. What's your favourite business idea that you've never acted on?
Pool Party Social Club.
Oh, there you go.
Probably.
Okay, but what about from your folder of brands that like you've never launched? If you want to
I had an idea of doing fake tattoos years and years ago before I knew about Inkbox, which is the place I got fake tattoos, which you may have noticed on my arms for the recent episode, which was because they last 2 weeks after the Dream Dust shoot. So I think that's a fucking great idea. And that's the only brand I've seen in the world that has properly scaled that. I don't know how big they are, but it's got to be multi-9 figures in revenue. Like, it's crazy. Because it's such a good idea. I would never get a tattoo, but the fact I can have it for 2 weeks and look like a different person, a kind of different character, if I'm, I don't know, going on holiday or whatever, and also trial a tattoo. But I did have that idea like years ago. Not saying that they stole it off me, but also I remember thinking that.
Economically, that business must be so nice. Like your postage is everything must be letters.
Like, small letter, yeah.
Small letter. Everything must be so cheap to manufacture.
So cheap. Like 95% margins.
Like, yeah, you basically just print it in paper.
Are they expensive? Is it
pretty,
like...
They're not cheap. Like,
it's like 15 quid for one that would go on your arm, but I bet it costs 20p to make.
Yeah.
But then you get, like, people aren't just going to buy one.
I bought 7.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, most people are going to buy 5, 6, 7 at a time. And then if you're... Also, I imagine the repeat customer rate's pretty decent on that sort of thing. If you're buying them once, people probably trial tattoos, or do they do custom stuff?
Yeah,
that's probably
I've got
more expensive.
Put on like the barley trip.
Yeah. Going out full sleeve.
Yeah.
That's a. I'm trying to think of a business off the top of my head. I really like boring businesses. I really want to own a boring business. I've said this before. Like,
you already do. An agency.
Yeah, but even more boring. Like, I think like you could make loads of money taking like online marketing principles and applying them to something like a fucking fencing.
Yeah, just no one wants to do it.
Fencing or roofing. Yeah, but like proper generational wealth. If you go and try and dominate like the landscaping businesses in the north of England. 2
richest guys I ever met when I was younger, for the first time, like entrepreneurs I met when I was doing this placement, I was like 18. And there were these 2 brothers from Birmingham, and one of them drove a Rolls Royce, and the other drove a Lamborghini. I'd never seen anyone that had these cars. And I was like, what do you do? And they ran a business called CFS and Contract Fire Solutions, and they do sprinklers in stadiums.
Yeah.
and it was 150 million revenue, or something like that.
There's-
And I was like, you don't think about shit like that.
Yeah.
There's more.
But if you can do it well, there's always going to be a market for it.
That's what I mean. Like those kind of, but when I say boring businesses, I literally mean like fencing, roofing, landscaping, like things that people will never
Always,
not need.
yeah.
Like who makes the fucking plastic that goes on this cable? That
Yeah.
I
makes
know
some
someone who
done.
does that. I know someone in Hong Kong
Ah,
whose family
really?
business is like the.
Yeah.
plastic.
He's rich.
Yeah.
He's really rich.
It's like D2C is obviously like the more like the sexy thing,
Yeah, it is.
but
Yeah.
there is inherently more money in boring shit. So like going and dominating like the like roofing market in 4 cities in the UK, it's very hard for someone to come in once you've got a market share and just take that from you. Where it's a lot easier. It's still hard for you to like for an agency to go from 7 figures to nothing overnight, and it's still hard for a D2C brand to go from $1 million a month to nothing. But it's probably more likely than for you to just that business just to stop existing.
Yeah.
And there's also like once you've done it in one place, you could probably replicate that success over and over again, because most people who run those companies don't have a clue what they're doing. But maybe I don't know. I've never actually looked into it, so I don't know if it'd work. I heard a really good business idea that I liked, which was split testing menus on Deliveroo for companies. I think that was on a podcast I listened to. I think that's a great
a good
idea. Like a CRO for like menus, which I think was quite cool.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
It's like so many like small things like that I think are cool business ideas. Just don't have any more time to do anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the thing you realise, isn't it? That's the thing I've realised. Like, I mean, obviously ideas are worthless, but if you want to really do something well, you probably got to do it for like 5+ years at least, like on one thing.
Unless you get a team
And
in
certainly
place.
stay in the same realm at least. At least I haven't gone from like Forex to fucking ecom. At least I've stayed in ecom. Even though granted I've not done one brand for like 10 years yet. But yeah.
But then what's your opinion on like, you know, I think, well, it's commonly said like you should focus on literally one thing in your business and like just focus on one business. I'm incapable of focusing on one thing. What's your opinion on like whether you should just focus on like
I've
one
thought about this a
thing?
lot and debated it a lot. Because even with the podcast, when I paused that for a while, in my head that was like because it's not the brand.
I
But then
remember you saying
I do feel like they relate and they complement each other. And it's net beneficial for me not to be fucking staring at the screen by myself all the time.
It's also a hobby. Like,
So
you can class
yeah,
this
exactly.
as a hobby.
You can
Like,
class it as a hobby, yeah. And I think it's also probably quite, particularly when running a brand, I think if you can have a separate thing that is like a cash flow vehicle, which the podcast has been, not to the extent, I haven't pushed that much, it hasn't been like a crazy extent, but like definitely has covered my life for like the past year. Just from the small bit of monetization I've done. And that's very different to like building a brand where you got investors and you're ultimately hoping to one day sell it. Because that's something a lot of people don't realise as well. That's why there's 90 fucking agencies for every brand. But even if a brand's really profitable, and Connor probably says this, I don't know, but even, well, he's fucking rolling in it, but like you're buying stock, you know, it's different. It's not like an agency where it's big margin, you know, no stock requirements. So I think it's good to maybe have two different things, and it took me a while to kind of realise that, but that's the way I view it now. But I couldn't do more than that.
I
But
think
they're all in the same sort of realm. Same with your shit.
think
Even I don't understand how you do as many things.
with great struggle. I think it depends on where you are in the journey and also what you want to do. I think people, again, I've said this before, like you shouldn't just do, like you should do something. If you're first getting into something, you should do something to sustain your lifestyle and get you out the 9 to 5, if that's what you want to do, which isn't the only path in life. And yeah, it's optimal. But then once you've done that, it's like, what do you actually want to do? Like, do you want to like, you've then got the luxury to choose your own path almost and spend your time on what you're actually passionate about. So then you might end up doing 2 things, but one thing's the actual passion, the other thing's like a facilitator. You might find like, as I've done, we've got the other businesses I'm involved with, one's come from like wanting to do it because I enjoy that as much or more. Secondly, because they're in a position where I can do that because we've built a team. And then thirdly, just due to like situational things, like having to bring other people in to start them, things like that. I think fundamentally though, you'll always get further with one thing if you just spend all your time on it. like just would if I spent all my time on one business. That's not the one. We haven't chinned to, don't worry.
I was going to say, sorry, I don't know anymore yet.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right answer to that. I don't think you can apply an absolute to that
It kind of
statement.
depends on the person.
Depends on the
right?
person, depends on what they want to do. Yeah.
It's also like if you find building things fun, right? Like it doesn't feel like work. Well, it does sometimes, but it doesn't always feel like work.
Yeah, there's a guy on Twitter called Levioso. Levioso?
Levels I think it is.
Levioso.
Yeah, I know you
That's from Harry Potter.
I know the one you mean.
He's built like he's like a one-man band doing ridiculous numbers, and he's just a builder, an inherent person who loves building things. Like, and he's built these AI softwares. He's built 7 or 8 different softwares because he clearly just loves building shit. And like, I think if you asked him, he'd probably be like, "Oh, if I did less stuff, these 2 or 3 could probably get like 10 times bigger." But it's like if he doesn't enjoy doing that, he doesn't enjoy doing it. So I think it's like finding that balance within yourself and what you want to do.
I mean, like, I feel like people founding businesses are often like a certain type or have some things in common at least. Like, what's the most important values you think you need to have to found a successful business?
I'm still trying to make a successful one, but
Mindset,
yeah, I mean, it's
self-motivation, intrinsically self-motivated, mindset, and then self-awareness, I think, are the 3 biggest
I'd
things.
say just being a doer over a talker.
Yeah.
I've always been very good at doing, like just fucking saying I'm going to do something. The next day, the website's there. Like, so many people that spend 17,000 years saying next week,
I'm gonna do.
just fucking start.
Massive action.
Because once you start, it's momentum, innit? One thing leads to the next, leads to the next. And then before you know it, you're in a different fucking country with a different person doing a different thing. Potentially.
Yeah.
So,
Massive action.
yeah.
Self-awareness is big. And being able to like seek. I think the ability to solve your own problems as well. It's people who ask. I see this in comments on stuff, like even comments on your stuff on Twitter more so than mine. Is like people asking questions that if you just slap it in Google, it'll give you the answer in 2 seconds.
Guns that watch my shit don't realise how clueless I am about almost everything I'm doing.
It's just like painful when people ask you Googleable questions. Yeah. Like, just stuff like that. Just like being a bit like self-reliant and resourceful. Probably the biggest things. That's quite a lengthy list.
Yeah, so many things, isn't it?
I feel like this time of year is also when people like look in their notes at like the business idea that's been sat there like the whole year and actually contemplate doing something about it. But I reckon like way less than half actually do something about it.
I also just fundamentally think risk taker, innit? Like, I think that's what entrepreneur means by definition. It's so cliche, but it's very true. And like, it's just not wanting to take a risk on anything. You're just never going to do anything. Like ultimately, it's not like you're flipping a coin either, because you can control the input.
Yeah, that's why I always hate when people are like, "Oh, bash like even tax rates for people who own businesses." It's like, well, you're not taking the risk of it's like appreciating, like we have the fundamental like duty to pay 50 people a month. And it's not even 50 people, it's like 50 people plus anyone that's reliant on them for that income, which is like quite a lot of responsibility when you actually sit back and think about it. Like, but I feel like that's why I quite like think building a team is pretty mental when you sit back and like, whoa, this is a lot of people who are fundamentally reliant on this entity working and like not just disappearing overnight, which is inherently possible.
Yeah, it's very possible.
And like that's a big motivating factor daily, because it's like it's not like, oh, this now pays me money. It's like this now sustains like 50 people, then maybe 10 of those have like kids or families or reliance on them, which I think a lot of people don't appreciate.
Yeah, I'm always amazed when like the culture of the UK is bashing like entrepreneurship and capitalism. So where do these dons think the businesses that like everyone works for come from? Like originally there's one don that started a business. Literally every single organisation was ultimately started by one person or a group of people. And that has to be someone that's willing to take the risk. Like, do people just think it comes out of thin air? That actually amazes me sometimes. Like the narrative broadly from society, when everyone's like bashing on like successful people, instead of just like wow, they actually built something from scratch and add a lot to the economy. And it's just a strange attitude. It's like tall poppy syndrome, isn't it? It's a very Australian English thing. In America, you don't seem to see that as much. They kind of praise that more. But yeah, it's a big risk, isn't it? Everyone's jealous of the entrepreneur that maybe they see the fruits of it, but no one's jealous when the business goes tits up and they get death threats for 6 months online, i.e. me. So it's like, yeah, there's high highs and low lows potentially.
And I remember,
whereas if you choose to be an employee, you're probably never going to have the high highs or low lows to the same extent, but it's a much more stable path, and that is just the reality. But you're never going to earn as much either.
I think that's where I'd push back on the e-coms versus agency thing as well. Like, you don't have to support that many people. Ours is a person business, so we've got, not that it's better, it's just it is as real a business, because it's just like,
oh, it's a better business in many ways.
A ridiculous amount of people, which is stressful but good.
I just couldn't do it.
No, you couldn't. No way.
Don't want to.
No, yeah. It's just,
I'll die by the sword trying to build an e-com brand.
and then I know you've spoken about this before, but how much of it is like you're intrinsically born with the like desire to be a entrepreneur or like go down that path? How much of it is like how you were raised? I don't know. Like the biggest factors of like determining if you're gonna go into a corporate job or like build a business.
I think it's more environment. I had no interest in it until I met him.
Oh really?
Like literally.
Really?
No, not really. Until I met you.
I should take a percentage of all these cunts.
Yeah,
I know he's fucking way more cake than I am.
I had interest in doing. I knew I don't know. I can't even think about that far back. I'd like started like.
Yeah, I was disappointed when you didn't drop out of uni with me.
Yeah, I know you were. You were flaming me for weeks.
You had to go get a degree.
Did you get your degree?
Yeah, I did. Big up. Useless, pointless. Got that piece of paper.
I was actually very shocked when you reached out to me, like, would have been like 3 years ago now or something, saying you'd start an agency, and I was like, fucking hell, I thought you were a civilian. I thought you were gone. And I saw you finish the degree, I thought that was it.
Gone into the depths.
And then he comes out and has actually started something. I was like, wow, fair play.
Did you leave uni and try and take everyone with you, or?
Just me.
No, because we had the clothing brand.
Yeah, we had a brand together.
Honestly, that brand could have been massive. Could have, should have, but it wasn't.
Stuck with it, it would have been. But you got
like Luke Hemmings was buying our shit.
Yeah, you started seeing those dollars from dropshipping and you're off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd started I think I'd read a few books and listened to a few like podcasts in that kind of entrepreneurial self-development space, but then I'd never come across Shopify or anything like that until you showed me it, and then that was the fork in the path. So that's why I think, like, personally, I think you have to have some fundamental traits, but I also think a lot of the fundamental traits, if you try hard enough, you can change. You just have to have a willingness to change, and you have to consume the right content. But I think it's more about who you surround yourself with and the content you consume rather than where you're from, because there's a lot of people who, I think both ways, there's a lot of people who are born into mad successful families and end up being drug addicts, and there's a lot of people who are born in the absolute state and end up being really successful, which arguably shows you that where you come from and where you start from doesn't matter as much as like the path who you surround yourself with and how you get there, almost.
Well, I've got a twin brother, so it's a good example, because he's a complete civilian. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just the opposite of me in almost every way, and it is an interesting one because we're not identical, so we technically don't have the exact same genes, but we went to the same school.
You must have been raised pretty much the same,
exactly,
right? Treated the same.
Yeah, so to me, I think that was genetics. We had different wiring.
I'd love if you were able to.
And then because we had different wiring, we started consuming different things and focusing on different things at about age 18, which when we started to split.
Yeah, I'd love if you could map your life out and then almost like pinpoint like these weird like
who said that one thing to me?
Do you know how you
change
like? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the will have been things.
The butterfly effect.
That has like that. Yeah, like the will have been like decision trees. Like where did that and why did that lead to? And like the will have been like 5 or 6 like fundamental. You always said that when you went to that work experience with your whoever it was, that you said that was a fundamental change. Like there'll be in everybody's life there'll be 1 or 2 things like that where it's like you went this way instead of just carrying on that path. It'd be really interesting to see, but I can't remember enough about like 3 weeks ago, so I've got no chance of reflecting that far.
Yeah.
On life.
I do definitely think in a way though, whether it's a result of genetic and or environment, some people just have it, some people don't. At a certain point, I don't know if there's a point where your brain is molded enough. Maybe that's like 25, so what they say. And past that point, you've either got it or don't, whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I used to be pretty soft when I was like when I was coxswain in that that boat. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree to a point. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to be a cox, for anyone that doesn't know. Most people don't know rowing. He was a cox in a stern loader when we were rowing at Bucks Uni Regatta.
God. Isn't that the person in the boat who doesn't
probably
row?
The tallest cox in the history of rowing.
I'm 6'2", so
that's why we didn't win that event.
Getting out with back pain every day.
Did you have to train?
Just not eat. Everyone was just bullying me into not eat. Like 1 meal a day. For like
such a shit life as a cox.
Yeah,
and that's how you met.
Live in the shadow of the athletes. Yeah, that actually is. Yeah.
Oh, cute.
You started rowing there before coxing, right?
Yeah. I only did that. I only did that because the one you had got injured and no one else would step up, and I was like, I'll just do it. Fuck it.
Do you have a little mic thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's funny. It's really funny.
Very niche.
I mean, okay. So also then, how much of like success is down to luck and timing, and how much is hard work?
These are like deep, broad.
Have to ask someone successful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think luck isn't a useful thing to believe in, because I do agree, like timing and luck, but luck is just fucking. You could argue it's a useful way to look at it. Is it's preparation meets opportunity in it, whatever. I think timing's important, but the irony of that in my case is that I think I launched that neon brand at the perfect time, arguably, literally perfect. But then actually it was also the worst time because supply chains were fucked, etc., etc. So that was a two-sided thing. I also think I'm potentially launching a mushroom brand at the perfect time because I got a better idea of timing and because of the previous stuff I'd done. So I was like, I think now's the right time. So I think it does have a part, but at the end of the day, if someone's better, it doesn't really matter when they join the party or the market, like they're going to win, aren't they? So
yeah.
I think I wouldn't use it as an excuse because it's very tempting.
I think it can give you a massive leg up, but it can't fundamentally make you succeed. I think we got a massive leg. Everyone who started an agency at the start of COVID got a massive leg up because one, you couldn't do anything else other than work because there was nowhere to go, and D2C e-com boomed. So it was like, well, you don't have any other choice, but there's not much better things to do than work over that period, so you might as well do it. And then everybody shifted demand online, so all these companies wanted to pick up marketing. So we got a massive leg up through that and allowed us to scale way quicker than we probably would have. So you get timing, but then that only gets you so far, and then the rest is like skill set and learning and fundamentals that you can't just wing. Luck definitely has an impact, but as Matt said, I think you make your own luck over time. Like you get luckier the more effort you put in and the better you get at something.
Yeah.
But then like there is still an element of luck in everything, like reaching, I don't know, from an e-commerce perspective. I can give better examples from an agency perspective of like landing in someone's inbox just when they want to pick up a new service or when they're looking for something. Like that is inherently like two things that you have no control over meeting at the perfect time, which is, I guess, luck. So from that perspective, there is elements of it, but then beyond that, like your message still has to be good. So I think there's always an element of it there, and like an undertone of luck and timing, but it's only going to get you 20% of the way there. The rest of the 80% is like fundamentals.
Yeah, I agree.
Even from I think from an e-com perspective, maybe flip it on its head. Like you're lucky that your supply chain didn't blow up. Like you're lucky that like your freight didn't get lost, because there will be people who experience that. So like it's almost easier to give like anti-examples of like how you're lucky for an e-commerce brand. Like your order didn't get stopped at customs for 6 weeks, so like you are lucky in a sense. That's always going to be there to some degree. But I suppose
probably the luckiest part in a lot of it, and that everyone probably watching this loses perspective on, is you were born in a fucking first world country with a functioning brain. Like I think
Perspective
90% of the
true.
world don't live in the first world. 90% of the world never even have the opportunity to fucking go on a laptop and watch a podcast and learn amazing things for free on the Midnight Pod.
I think
Because they're born in a fucking village in Africa or some Syrian war-torn fucking town, and they're worried about their fucking parents getting shot by the Taliban.
I think
Or some
like
other thing.
yeah, I think like when a lot of people do like I don't really do massive year reviews. I don't know about you.
No.
I usually write a few goals
Probably
down
should.
for like I usually break out into like fitness/health, business, and then like travel/ something like just those 3 areas, and then write a few things down that I want to do over the next year. But some people do like really holistic year reviews, but I feel like it's a good time to actually be like, a lot of people lack perspective in life. I feel like a lot of people who have like problems, I'm not trying to like, there's some people who have like fundamental like, this is not like me having like this is not me going down like a mental health problem like angle, because that's definitely a real thing, but there's a lot of like stresses in day-to-day life, whereas if you actually just zoom out far enough to get a big enough perspective on it, it's like you're still in a very advantageous and lucky position. Like a lot of people use this time to take stock of things, and I think that's quite a good thing to do. Is like your worst day is someone's best day times like 1 million, like in many cases. But it's very hard to do that, isn't it? It's like that moving yardstick that you always chase.
Yeah.
It's like not quite the same thing, and it's not always useful, but I always I say this at work, it's like, if nobody's dying, like there's no point getting that stressed about it, you know, like it doesn't matter if you zoom out far enough. But that doesn't always get well received. It depends on the situation. But you see
you can't
point.
apply. I feel like it's harder to apply in day-to-day life, because if you're in the middle of a big problem, then it's like
it feels like the end of the world.
Yeah, but like when you're trying to be a bit more reflective, it's like you actually can kind of apply that and be like,
yeah,
life's pretty decent when you zoom out. Obviously not for everybody, but it's useful.
Okay, another deep one. What does success mean to you? Because I feel like it's different for everyone.
It definitely is, and that's a good thing. And not enough people, too many people try and chase other people's idea of success,
Sure.
and that's such a big thing. You'll get this. There'll be some people watching this who will basically want to live your life. Definitely, like a very small.
I don't want to live my life. Shit.
I know, but there'll be some people who look at it and be like, I want to own that brand. I want to live in that place. I want to be able to do those things.
Especially when you're going to Bali, you know.
Yeah,
like,
just because you do them. But then when they got there, they'll be like, oh, this isn't what I want. And it's like, I think that's another like reflective piece to do, is like, and it's like to step back and be like, what do I actually find fulfillment in? Like, one example of this that everybody seems to be going with is there's so many people moving to Dubai at the moment.
Yeah.
And like, that is
There's a
like,
question about that, I think.
there is.
Yeah.
Get that later.
it's like, all power to those people, sick place, but like I know it's not for me, and I know that like there's reasons why it's not for me, because I've got mates here that I enjoy spending time with, would be further away from my family, etc. And that's like having enough like self-awareness to be like, that's not what I want to optimize my life around. I think that's what, like, success is different to everybody, and then it's about being like aware, and it's ultimately like fulfillment and freedom and happiness, I think. Because some people who work for charities would consider themselves like mad successful, because they've got to like their idea of a dream job where they get maximum fulfillment and absolutely love their life.
Yeah, I'd say success is ultimately achieving what you want to achieve, but I think deciding what you want to achieve is probably the hardest part and the most interesting variable. Andy Frisella said success is the progressive realisation of a worthy ideal, which sounds very fancy, but it's just ultimately progressing towards what you've set out as a goal. That is success. But I think the hardest part is defining what it is for you, but also in society, money and success seem to be the only things that are like linked, because it's the easiest scoreboard to look at. Some person has X money, some person has X, that they must be more successful. But even I've started to realise, like, fucking hell, it's not like, I think a mate said this to me the other day, like, there's many forms of like being rich, and it is true, but we all look at money, whereas actually someone else could be way more, they could enjoy their job way more, they could have time freedom, location freedom. I've always said, like, I'd rather make 100 grand a year on a laptop in Bali than £1 million a year doing something I fucking hate in a cubicle in the city. and I actually would, you have no fucking time to spend it for a start. So there's different ways to look at, but yeah, ultimately I think it's progressing towards what you want to achieve, but deciding what you want to achieve is the hard part, because society tells you it should be money and nothing else.
Yeah.
And actually, and there's a lot of that on Twitter as well. Everyone's just fucking obsessed with cash. But like, what the fuck do they even do? They sell Forex signals to 14-year-olds.
I actually think it's more admirable to do something that's not money related and be like, I don't know, I have like as much, if not more, respect for someone who works on something that provides, like, they live a decent life but get maximum fulfillment out of it. And just I know some people who are just mad happy doing like real basic shit, and they get mad fulfillment from doing it, and maybe that's charity work or something. That's quite admirable thing to do. You notice that whole money isn't the only kind of measure of success. Again, with team, like, we have some people who I know who work for us who, like, maybe like 80-20, like 20% of the motivation is money, but 80% of the motivation comes from like completely different things, like learning opportunities, being part of something bigger. And it's like, I think it's hard to appreciate that when your motivation comes from one place, to then actually understand that other people's motivation can come from something else, until you actually encounter someone who's like, this is what I want from this. And then you realise it a bit more.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also think that the flip side of that is I'm very practically aware of the grotesque importance of building wealth. So like, because I always argue with my parents about this, they always accuse me of chasing money, and I always laugh back at them and say, I sold pink lights on the internet, for fuck's sake. I'm not chasing money. The cunt that goes and does a grad scheme is chasing money 1,000,000% more than me. I'm just trying to be creatively free and have freedom. The freedom's always been my goal, so that's kind of success. But I know you need money, connections, and like time and location freedom to have freedom. So I'm very aware of that. So for me, it's like, yeah, I do want to make a fuckload of money and make tens of millions of quid, because I think that's a great thing. So that means I can help my family. It means it would also mean I've built a better business, which has impacted more people, especially because the business I'm building ultimately I feel like is trying to do good in society as well as just make money. So for me, it's like health, wealth, love and happiness. I think it's so cliche, but like, I don't admire the billionaire that's fucking like so fat he can't fucking breathe. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be like in great shape, have good friends and shit. And they probably all do balance out to an extent. Yeah, some want to have more of the other, probably have to have slightly less of the other one. But it's finding out what that optimum balance is. But
optimize around fun. That's what I do. Fun. Like, life should intrinsically be fun.
Yeah, I don't think I've had enough fun recently, to be fair.
Like, life should be fun. Like, you obviously have to have a balance. You can't just have. Like, but then again, like, I wouldn't have fun if I went out every night. Like, fun is a balance of like what makes up. And that again is very different to everybody. But like,
building things is fun as well.
Yeah,
you feel that way
I find,
inclined, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I find it like when I sit at my computer, I'm enjoying what I do. So yeah, that was quite a long answer for.
No, it's true though. I do like. Also, I find sometimes that I've got a lot of friends who are like teachers, and they're so content in their lives, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what that's like. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wish I had a brain like that. Okay, like I don't, but occasionally, it must be quite nice to be like just content.
I watched a podcast episode last night. Again, it's like my first million podcast. I plugged in loads on this. It's probably bad from another podcast, but they did an episode yesterday about TikTok, and they were talking about all these small video series that have been getting released on TikTok recently, and one of them is this guy who gets in and everyone should go watch this because it's a great episode after you've watched the rest of this.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of the account, so you're gonna have to go watch theirs to find it. But it's this guy who gets in taxis in New York and is like, he asks the taxi driver questions like, what's your favourite restaurant? The taxi driver will be like, where do you want to go? And he'll be like, what's your favourite restaurant? And he'll be like, we're going to go there. Drives to the restaurant, then he gets out and he says, leave the meter running. And he just goes into the restaurant with the taxi driver and then interviews that, just asks them questions about their life for like 45 minutes. And it's so many of them are just so happy with what they do in life. Like, loads of them are immigrants that came from other countries and they're just like so content with what they do. They love New York, they love their life. And that was like really I watched so many of them in bed last night. I was just scrolling through them for ages. And there's so like stuff like that. It's like that. There's so many of those sort of things that are just really interesting. Because you are in a bubble. There's a bubble in terms of online business massively.
I definitely
not
agree
enough
with
people
the
leave
whole
the
money
bubble.
Twitter sphere, and it's a small example, but everyone just like jumps on the Dubai is one example of many. The Dubai bandwagon, it just proves that they have no life experience because they're just agreeing with what the masses are saying, and then they can't actually form their own opinion because they don't have enough context or years on the planet to develop their own opinion. So they just fucking start tweeting based shit. I don't know what that word means, but everyone says it.
Yeah, I massively disagree. There's a bubble on there, and one of the things I fundamentally disagree with is the idea that you should sack off everybody in your life.
Yeah, you said this before, yeah.
That isn't successful or hasn't come on that sort of journey with you, which I fundamentally disagree with, because it then just like removes you from, I don't know, it just gives you so much less social awareness and social skills. Like, I've still really good mates with people from school, uni, and like I value those friendships because I don't want to sit and think about business all day every day. And maybe if I did do that, it would get me further, but I'd 100% enjoy life 50-60% less if I didn't have that kind of other side to it. And I think that's just like such a stupid narrative. Like, so like, it's so short-sighted.
It's like Kruger curve or whatever, and it's the same shit. It's like
woke.
Yeah, you
woke
get the
caveman.
The basic dons, the middle dons who think they have to like read books 18 hours a day and they can only speak about Andrew Tate and fucking go to Dubai because they're based and all this shit. And then you get the dons that are actually really fucking smart, who are much more like the basic dons because they just get it to a level that the fronters don't understand.
It's like 100%. If
it
all
applies to every aspect of what you're saying.
A lot of those people who sacked off like mates will definitely get to like 30, 40, 50 and be like, oh, I've got a successful business.
But
I've got this like trophy wife that I really wanted, and then like, but I've got nobody around me that I actually have any like long-term deep connection with. It's just like so stupid.
So those people keep you grounded as well, right? If
you're
like in your own head and you spend a lot of time on your own, working on your own business. Like.
Yeah, it's again they're all also successful in their own right because they're doing things they enjoy and building. Like, it's just it's one of the things I just fundamentally disagree with, but a lot of people would push back the other way.
I might ask the Dubai question because there's a question on here about like everyone is pumping Dubai and dumping London. What are your thoughts? But that's very specific.
I was talking to Jack sat there. I was asking him about this earlier, just to reference him. I think that, like I said this earlier, like Dubai and London, it's just like choose what you want. Like I know loads of people who move into Dubai who would enjoy it, and again, I'm not good at a lot of. I think there's one thing is people go to Dubai and then bash wherever they've left.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand, because it's like, just because you don't like somewhere doesn't mean that someone else wouldn't like somewhere. It's this idea of like absolutes of like, oh, this place is absolutely better than that, but it's like, well, no, I can have an opinion that I don't want to move from London to Dubai because I don't really like. I just don't think I'd like it living there. Two, I've got mates and family who I value seeing on a regular basis here or close to London, which is inherently easier to do and inherently easier to maintain those relationships if I'm not a 5-hour flight away. I'd make considerably more money, but like money isn't everything. I'm fortunate enough to have enough money to live the life that I don't really like comfortably. Like, I get more fulfillment from the work I do than the money I earn now, and that's like definitely a better place to be.
Sat on 50 million liquid.
Definitely
saw with us Nasdaq.
But I think like the idea of London versus Dubai is such a stupid argument. That's something you have to look at yourself and be like, what would I enjoy? I'd encourage anyone before, like, what people need to realise is living somewhere and going on holiday somewhere is two fundamentally different things. If you're going to go to Dubai, you should go there on holiday first and then maybe go there for a month and then try and not treat it like a holiday. Try and treat it as if you're going to live there and actually live, because like you have to get into a routine. You have to like, there's a lot of things. I
can definitely see the Dubai logic in November, December in UK weather though, to be fair.
And like I can see that side as well, but it's just not for me.
January primarily, because it's depressing as fuck.
And like I think Dubai, I'd fall into and I'd probably get into a place where all I did was work Whereas I'm trying to get more out of that and more into a place of I work to enjoy the time I do at work.
Is he settling?
I'm not settling, because you can still get enough. You don't have to work 12 hours a day to get. I can get more
You
work.
got any
done.
girlfriend?
No.
I'm sensing new girlfriend, and I'm
No.
jealous.
I
want a more balanced life, and I just fucking sit there realizing that romance isn't for me. So I may as well try and be a billionaire, and then I could buy cars and just hope that one day she looks at my profile and cries.
The question was Dubai versus London. I'm trying to say that you need to make that decision for yourself. Like someone trying to project
too
that
many
decision.
dons that have self-proclaimed like fucking Twitter entrepreneurs that have quit their job 4 months ago and they think they're fucking Steve Jobs, and they just jump on the trend.
Why is it about like? I mean,
Because of the tax.
it's
But like
just-
Tax and
But
weather.
there's other.
tax and weather. But like I
I
would.
there's better places.
It's like 50% more.
I've always said
income.
that's not for me, and everyone's been like, why?
And it's like, it's just like make more fucking money, so it's not a problem. Like it's just like.
Or just don't put that before every other aspect of life.
Yeah.
Like money again. Like it's what you. I get. This probably stems from what you. And then I don't want to then. Because it would be contradictory for me then to say that those people are wrong for making that decision.
No, it's great for some people. I'm sure there's some
Exactly.
people.
So if that's your like life goal, and you're even if it's just for short term until 30, you just want to make as much money as you can. I'm not saying that's the wrong decision either. Like you can, all power to you. You should move there. You should cash it in and then move back, or do whatever you want. Like Joe's moving there. My business partner's moving there.
He's moving there.
I think so. He's going there for 2 weeks in January to see if he'd enjoy moving there. And I can see him living there. I think it's like I think he enjoys it a lot.
I can see that. I can see myself doing it 3 months a year.
I
Get
don't
that
know, maybe
residency.
I couldn't
That
now,
personal
but I
tax
think maybe in a
residency.
couple of years I could. This is what I mean. Like, I'm not saying either way is better. It's just for me right now, I wouldn't move from where I am to Dubai. I wouldn't make that decision right now when knowing myself and what I enjoy and the two setups. But
Yeah, Don seems to jump off the whole bandwagon with things like the whole London's a shithole, dangerous. Now, mate, Brixton, where your fucking mum's from, is a shithole. If you live in a nice place, it's not a shithole. It's the same with anywhere.
I think people just need to appreciate that subjectivity is a thing.
Exactly.
Like, there's so many people who just push like this
Yeah.
absolutist narrative of like,
Yeah.
this is the only way of thinking, or this is the only way to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, there's so many ways to approach life and get to the same outcome.
It's
You
the
just have-
same as the thing about like what job you do, right? If you want to be like a teacher or like just do a 9 to 5 or
Yeah.
whatever. It's
It's just about what you want for yourself, and then kind of just blocking out the noise of what other people think. I've started physically unfollowing people who just like say this is the only way to do things, because it's just like a really poor way to approach life.
Yeah.
where would you live if you could live in another country? If you had to.
You're way more. I'll go second. I'm painfully untravelled. And that's way more. You're both way more travelled than me.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of places. I think I'll give one that's an obvious one, and then I'll give an interesting one. I like Bali, but even myself, I've been like 5 times, but I haven't been to 3 years. I'm pretty excited to go back. Apparently, it's been kind of fucked since then because it's become way more mainstream, which I can understand. But I couldn't live there. I don't think I'd base myself there because it's still a third world country at the end of the day. One I did like, and I can see myself living in for a while, is Brazil. I went for the first time in March last year. I feel like there's a place called Leblon there, which is like Canggu in Bali, and I would put money on it. It's the next Bali in terms of like nomadic
But
community.
they always shift. They'll move from Bali.
Yeah, it was
somewhere
cool.
else.
Like the weather was sick.
So like surfing stuff, like same kind of.
Similar vibe to Canggu. It
Nice.
felt more developed in a way.
I think Bali's got the other thing of like so many
I
Australians
think
go there.
Lisbon is cool as well.
Lisbon's
Definitely,
yeah, I
could definitely
live
live
in
there.
Lisbon.
Been there a few times.
I think in Europe, like I feel like community-wise as well. there's-
Lisbon. I could do Barcelona. I think Barcelona's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
sick.
similar sort of vibe to Lisbon. Slightly more beachy.
I think if I was mainland Europe, I'd hop around a lot. I wouldn't. Being English, if I was going to move to Lisbon, I'd be like Lisbon for a month, Barcelona for a month, because it's quite easy to travel through mainland Europe without like that much effort.
I think I'm getting the
Train.
bug to fucking travel more again next year. But I say that I've been away like 10 times this year, which for me was a slow year.
I think.
But I think it's good to have a base somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just inherently more productive to be in one location for an extended period of time. Whether even if that's like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
Like go and live in one place for maybe a bit longer than 2 weeks, maybe a month at a time. It's like if you're going to
gym,
week,
work setup, and like general infrastructure, they're like the few things gym, work setup, and Wi-Fi. They're like the 3 things you need.
I'm also a massive fan of a hotel over an Airbnb. I'm not having the argument that Airbnb is better.
Yeah, it's just living in a hotel is kind of weird.
Yeah, it is, definitely. To answer your question about living, the place that I've been that was hands down the place that I could definitely live is San Diego. I thought San Diego was fucking sick.
I've been, it's cool.
So mad. So
I accidentally
good.
drove into Mexico there and got accused of being a drug dealer when we went past the border in 2019. That's not a made up story.
That's like it's just a cool place. It's like, I love that it's on the beach. I love that it's hot all year round, but then it's got like, it's just really nice as well. Like it's like, yeah, just really nice. But I'm really, really poorly travelled. Yeah, I've never been to Asia, so I've never been to South America either.
Asia's crooked when you first go.
So
we were landing in Thailand in 2017,
Well,
and I got my drink spiked on the first night, and the rest was history.
Been to like Middle East, but never Asia. This is when everyone jumps on me being like, "Oh, you can't have an opinion on Dubai. You never travelled anywhere."
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go to Asia. I want to travel more over the next few. Well, probably not this year, but I just don't think I can do it this year.
You also meet the best people. You meet interesting people.
Yeah.
Like in the most unexpected places, I think.
I've travelled quite a lot, but not like further afield, which I think is the more beneficial, because it's like you meet a more diverse. Surely you meet a more diverse range of people if you go to Asia compared to fucking mainland Europe. Like, vastly different.
Okay, there's another audience one. I guess it kind of links to like having a routine and not travelling maybe, but do you set day-to-day routines? Do you do the same thing every day?
This is the Oliver Hudson podcast featuring the Midnight Pod and Lucy.
You just need to pipe up.
Yeah, I'm off form today. I'm leaving it to you. I've been drinking wine for 6 days straight.
It's a good balance though. You dominate some, I don't.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a routine. Well, I do have a routine. I think it generally probably stays fairly similar even if I go away. It tends to be, I don't eat breakfast. I try and do all the hard shit before lunch in terms of work, like generally speaking. And then afternoons, maybe more creative shit. Tend to go to the gym in the late afternoon. And then in the evening, depends where I am, but probably do more like creative work and shit. Like broadly speaking, that's kind of the routine. And I've always been that way. Get up early, don't eat, drink coffee, drink rainbow dust.
So if you're working abroad, do you do the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much. To an extent, yeah. Always try and work and do the shit I need to do in the morning.
So then you can do what you want.
I had a 6 scoop rainbow dust on my stomach this morning. It was power.
Yeah.
Absolute power. I was seeing stuff. This is something I'm trying to get more into in Jan onwards, is because for the last like 5 months I've been an absolute slave to my calendar because I've had so many phone calls. There's been days where I've been on 8 hours of phone calls back to back, just because obviously being involved in 3 businesses and at a top level where you're like more strategic and team management focused. A lot of my time has come like basically being communication and like working with people on projects. But into next year I'm trying to put more of a focus on just having more free time, because that's when I do the best work. I get so like free, like a perfect work week for me would be like 3 calls and just a clear calendar of nothing else. It'd be beautiful. It'd be beautiful. So I'm trying to get into more of a routine. I used to have a good routine, but I tend to, because of the nature of the businesses, I tend to plan. My routine in terms of what I do in a day stays pretty similar, but the timings of those change quite a bit. So I usually get up at the same amount of time, but then beyond that, it can be. And I tend to plan my week on like a Sunday night, so I'll like block out like gym and stuff on a Sunday night, depending on when I can do it, which is why I always rearrange on him.
Yeah,
because it's just like hard to keep things fixed when you work across a few different time zones. Like a lot of our just have stuff to pick up in different time zones, different times, which I can't really move, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's one reason not to go to Asia. It's the worst
Yeah.
time zone.
I could not run 2 agencies from Bali. No chance. No, that I
Like
couldn't.
midnight calls were a thing.
I just couldn't do it. I could do
like
it.
6 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I could do it. I think that's a big benefit of Dubai. I think Dubai is
It's a
a
good
really
time
good
zone,
time zone
yeah.
because you can do like 4 or 5 hours of deep work before anybody's on Slack, and then you can be like, oh, I've got so much done before anyone even bothers me, which is a big inherent benefit, which is nice. I do think routine's really good though. I think like if I would love to be in a better routine. I think routine is like just like, even like if you watch Andrew Huberman getting up and going to sleep at a set time, doing things at a set time, getting like sunlight in the morning, like is scientifically just better for you. So people should chase
just every
that.
few months I get this incredibly high risk tingle down my spine that just says I should fuck off everything I know and go to the Philippines and like fucking live in some castle, like some weird shit like that. There's definitely a weird part of me that just doesn't want to conform to like societal standards and have a routine, live in one place. Although I know that's more productive, and that's what I've kind of been doing the past 3 years.
You could scale a filthy cash on delivery business in the Philippines.
Yeah.
No credit cards.
But ultimately, I think the best balance is a few months, like have a base, do a few months in one place. Well, and then I do like traveling still.
I think
I always get that tingle whenever I step on Emirates. And I'm like, here we go.
I think
I'm about to have a hangover before the flight lands.
It's a big thing that Iman Gadzhi pushes is like seasons, which I definitely think you can do.
Yeah,
if you do it right. You can work really hard for 2 quarters of the year and then spend the other quarter of the year spending 3 to 4 hours of doing deep work, but then spending the rest of the time doing what you want.
And then the other quarter just degeneracy.
If you actually go hard in those first 2 quarters, like full lock in, I think that's almost a better way to do things. Like through winter, just lock in and just smash it. Like Q1 and 2, then Q3 is usually.
That's what I've been doing the past 4 months: September, October, November, December. Probably like the most simple life I've had in a long time.
But I think you'll reap the benefits of that when you get to Q3. Q3 is usually the time when everybody, even like our clients, like they go on holiday. August is the month when everyone just disappears. And that's like that's not a wrong way to do things. I think that's a feasible way of operating, and almost a better way of operating.
Yeah.
Because that's when you can get in a routine, a really simple, standardized routine for 6 months, and then you can have fun when everybody wants to have fun through summer.
Yeah.
And it's like just rotate that, and that can work, and then hopefully get to a point where you can do like 1 quarter of good work and 3 quarters of fun.
Yeah, I definitely had fun in summer. I prefer life in summer. I like being tanned. I'm like a different person. I'm like a fucking werewolf. Like if there's no sun,
you just need that Cape Town
I'm just a
mansion.
moody cunt.
That's literally.
Cape Town mansion, then back to London for summer.
Yeah.
That's literally why I live in Asia. I'm a nicer person when it's sunny.
Oh, fundamentally.
For sure. Like, and
I like
get
being
more
tanned.
done.
I sunbathe on air every fucking in summer, like spring and summer. It's beautiful.
On that heavy vitamin D supplement.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you do go hard with work, then it also makes like the fun stuff more fun because you appreciate it more. Like if
Very
you're
true.
just
Very
fucking
true.
around all the time, then you don't really appreciate. Like, I think I shut my laptop for 4 days. It was like
Balance,
wow,
innit?
you know, like because I never do it.
Yeah, it's like balance. Like you fundamentally wouldn't enjoy just going out 7
No.
days in a row on a lash, like and doing nothing in between. It's like you enjoy working and then going out for like 1 night, and then but because you've kind of like earned it, or like you've got a plan, like you can't. It's like you don't want to. Just
Yeah, I
do the
want to
same
fucking
thing
send
over
it
and over again.
in Bali and be a degenerate for at least a few days.
January's a good time to do that.
I mean, I'll still be working because I'm just a fucking committed cunt. And I've probably not had a single day off my laptop in 7 years, but there's an element of it. Yeah.
I feel like the environment though as well. Like there'll be other people doing the same thing, right? Working a bit and then
You're off with
sending
Jordan.
it, yeah.
Jordan will be sending it. Jordan will be vaping all the time.
Oh, this crooked man.
What question did we even get? Oh, it was the where do you want to live?
You drinking that pint of wine or not?
I am, but like
I want you to get drunk.
it was a really quite a big glass. Ollie.
Well, we're through
Yeah,
2
it was.
bottles already.
Like,
It was a
You can
big
give
glass.
some to me if you want.
do you want some?
The
I'm
first
not gonna pour
podcast.
it.
The first podcast we recorded
Sort
together.
that out.
Do you want me to get the other bottle?
The first pod,
Yeah, get the
there's
other
2
bottle.
more.
We'll just go get
The
the
first
It might be a cork one though.
at the start of this.
I'm meant to be doing an hour run after this
We
to
don't need
prepare for
4
my next
bottles.
marathon.
The first podcast we recorded together, I don't remember the last 35 minutes of it.
That was the loosest pod we've ever done. It's also one of the most views. It's got 6.5k views now.
Because I'm a big
That's not bad on 2 hours of some agency cunt pissed in the wine cooler fridge.
Put the red in the cooler.
I prefer red in the cooler. We're not chopping this out.
Not chopping it
Comment
out.
your favourite wine. Also, I've got a sample on the way of unicorn blood.
Okay, next question.
Go on.
This kind of follows on actually. The biggest lifestyle change you're going to make next year?
Ooh, I'm just going to exercise more fundamentally. I'm going to shift my priorities away from business and towards fitness and health, because I think by doing that and basing my day and routine around that, it'll make me more productive in every other area. I did that for like the first few months and then I stopped doing it. So like basically being like, oh, I'm not going to take this phone call because I'm going to go gym. Whereas for the last like 6 months, I've just been like, I'll take the phone call and prioritize everything in that sense. And I've been really bad at that, and it's not a good way to go.
Yeah, I definitely like the new habit of. I obviously went to the gym, but like the start of last year, I just got obsessed with running, and then I decided that being in shape was now a new part of my identity. And then I quite liked the fact that I fucking got shredded in summer. Yeah. And I was like, shit, I don't want to get fat again.
It's just George Heaton. It's a good example.
Yeah, he's a good example.
Like
He's a great example.
It's like train like an athlete, and then alongside you work.
I mean, I've definitely let myself go in the past few days. I've had a lot of Christmas treats.
I mean, it's
a lot of shit.
Yeah, but whether you stick to your macros or you don't, you're still going to die.
I don't track macros, but
it doesn't matter if you stick
I
to your
suppose
diet.
next year, I'd like to get away from the screen more, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, my biggest problem, it's a lonely process. I don't have enough human interaction.
I think what I told you on that episode the other week about positioning yourself in the business where you're meant to be is true for you, definitely. Like, you're not best sat behind a computer screen 12 hours a day, not being a creative. You're best being like the creative lead of a brand, and then bringing other people in to do that function.
I do agree. Yeah. So that's the lifestyle change I'd like to make. Basically do less work.
More fun. More sense.
Less painful work, more using the mind in other capacities and thinking more.
Do you believe in New Year's resolutions?
I
feel like.
Yes, but I think if you're waiting, you get the classic cunt who's like, I think someone actually messaged me yesterday saying, oh, on January 1st I'm starting this. If you're waiting until January 1st, it's not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, definitely not. I do.
It's a nice premise. It's a nice idea.
Yeah, I think it's. This is like a proper business mentality to personal goals, but I think you don't get to an outcome without a system to get there. So it's like you can't just be like, these are my goals for 2023 without a tangible way of achieving those goals. So like if you want to, for example, if he wants to run a fucking 2:52 marathon, he doesn't just set that goal and go,
well, I've got to run an hour after this.
Yeah, it's like you don't
it's going to be a bike.
It's like you don't just set a goal of being like, oh, I want to get down to this weight, without having like a systemized approach of like, oh, I need to do these steps a day, I need to eat these calories a day. I think as long as you if you're going to set up New Year's resolutions, you need to set up systems and processes in life that facilitate you to get to them, which is a really like robotic way of looking at it. But that's ultimately how you get there. So like if you want to get to X amount of revenue in an agency, 'cause to use that example, it's like, what daily micro tasks do you need to hit to get to that macro goal of like, all right, we need to send these many messages and like do X, Y, and Z. So it's like, I do believe in like big goals for the year. It's just you have to set them with a basis in like a roadmap of how you actually get to them, rather than just fucking being like, oh, I'm going to do this and this. Unless it's like, oh, I want to go travel there, then that's like, obviously you don't need a system of how you're going to get to fucking Bali other than book some tickets. But for like personal goals and like business goals, I think it's important to like reverse engineer from the goal to actually how you do it. You're going to shred that marathon at 2:49?
Sub 2:48 is the new apparent goal.
You going to do it?
I mean, that's a big out. It's a sub 4 pace marathon, basically.
Yeah, it's quick. It's
Have you entered?
Yeah.
Oh, you are going to do
It's
it.
like 17 and a half weeks away.
I think you've got to do it.
Well, I did a 5k on Christmas Day, and I've gone to Strava, I ran an 18 minute flat, and I was untrained, unwarmed up, hungover. So I'm not unfit. I've got like a decent base still, because I've been chopping it over the past 10 weeks since the previous marathon. But with 17 weeks to go, I now need to get on a proper program.
I think
so. Basically, I'm gonna do it.
I feel like
I think you should do it.
I think you're going to do it anyway, because you've talked about it enough that
it's just hard, but I know what to do now.
I think
it's just a lot of consistency.
I don't. That's what I mean. I don't think you'd actually find doing that hard. I think it's the opportunity cost of doing it in terms of like what are the things you could do.
Yeah, it's not even the opportunity cost isn't that big though, because like,
well, not
I find if you have more things going on, you get more done.
Yeah,
like, you just kill the dead time in your life. Like, there's always time to go and do an hour run on a treadmill if you need to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just put a podcast on and do it.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Like, it's easier to say, I don't have time, but then what do you do for the last hour? You probably like sat on fucking TikTok.
Yeah, there's success. Like again, George Heaton example. He gets 2 workouts in a day and runs.
Yeah, that Don is a freak. He needs to come on the pod.
He's a cyborg, mate.
Yeah,
it's freak.
How much do you think of it as like mental though, as opposed to physical? I feel like
marathon. I've not got the. I'm not well positioned to comment on this.
I'm not.
I think doing the training is mental. Obviously, on the day, a large part is physical because you have to be fit enough. But I know a guy that was on paper fitter than me and should have got a lot quicker time than me that quit halfway because he just didn't have it in his head.
That must feel really shit to quit halfway through.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, I think you just win the battle by showing up to the training every day. And if you can do that for like 20 weeks, whatever it is, then on the day it should be just like business as usual.
I feel like it's probably
theory.
like net positive even for Space Goods though, for you doing that as well, to have like another goal away from...
Well, yeah, I just don't want to get fat again. And I started to think, I
That's not what I meant.
I need to have a goal.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just keeps me...
Something like that's not to do with the brand, right?
Yeah, and because it's away from a screen. Although I don't want to put as much pressure on it this time. So I've not really spoken about it.
I mean, you have spoken about it though. I feel like it's on here.
Yeah, a little bit.
I feel like you can do it. So, Space Goods questions. Do you remember when you first had the idea for it?
Well, I was going to launch a teeth whitening brand.
Really?
That's how desperate I was to start the next thing. And then I'd been playing around with a bunch of ideas back in like October 21, which isn't even that long ago really. But yeah, I have a document on Google where I've written down loads of name ideas, broad ideas, and I was very intentional about wanting to do something consumable and subscription based and something that I hadn't done before. But yeah, it wasn't. It was a teeth whitening brand idea originally, which I'm glad I didn't do because I don't give a shit about that. And then it morphed into mushrooms because I was just researching and I just decided that was the right thing to do. And then my gut told me that was the right thing to do.
Fair.
And then looking back, you never remember the exact
thing that...
You never remember when you decided to do something because it just happened. But yeah, it is quite mad actually because you can just come up with an idea and create something. Obviously it takes a while to do it, but it was going to be a teeth whitening brand and I'm very fucking glad I didn't do that.
You nearly did toothpaste. You sent me those. What was it going to be called? That was a bit of a rip on it, really.
Yeah, it was.
You just spied a rip and be like, I can do better.
Yeah. But yeah, it was about a little over a year ago. And then I spent about 4 or 5 months getting the first product sorted and then went live.
I feel like it's
history.
Different doing something that you really care about. I feel like doing something you don't, like your boring business thing. Like I mean, I've done a boring business before, and the problem was I didn't care enough. If that makes not care enough, but like I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to run the fucking day to day.
Bring that closer. I'll move closer to it.
I wouldn't want to run the day-to-day operations of the boring business. I just want to do the marketing bit. I fundamentally really enjoy the marketing side, which is why I've done doing the thing with Connor, because I'm more like actually doing the marketing, whereas running an agency, when you start an agency, you're very much doing the marketing. When you get an agency to like 7 figures plus, you're very much I'm not even operations anymore. It's very much like strategic decision making, and I think every business does this unless you position yourself correctly and bring the right people in to support you on the journey, which is what I said to you. It's like you have to position yourself where you're best positioned, and for the agencies, that's where I'm best positioned. But like, it doesn't mean that I enjoy that more than anything else, which is why that opportunity was really enticing for me. It's because I think I'd enjoy that more. But then I've got the kind of best of both worlds of being able to do both at the same time. And I think that's a bit of, I don't think I'm the most self-aware person. That's some element of self-awareness of being like, right, stepping back again and being like, this is what I enjoy. And then bringing people in who are fundamentally better than you at the elements you don't enjoy. And like the best thing about, you want to get to a point in business where like you're surrounded by people who are better than you at what they're doing, where you learn more from them than they do from you, which is the place you want to be, really. Yeah.
Do you remember like the exact, I asked Matt the same question about Space Kids, the exact like, moment you decided to set up the agency?
Yeah, but it was through because we had no money. It's just it's a good business model. A service. It doesn't have to be an agency, but service-based business when you have no money is easier. Like you obviously had a bit more money than we did when we started. We started it straight out of university. We took a PayPal loan to get a course because we had no cash, and then did the course, and then was like, but I knew enough about e-commerce to be able to supply a service at a decent level. And when you start that business, whether it's like agency or whether it's fucking, I don't even know, cleaning, like it could be anything. It's like if you have no money, you can trade your time for money. And an e-com business or an e-com brand, even dropshipping now, to be honest, I think the barrier to entry for dropshipping is inherently a bit higher now than it was 4 or 5 years ago. At that point, you have to have at least a bit of capital to start, whereas we were in a position where we literally had no money. So it was through it was almost like a strategic decision to pick that business and that vehicle. And then obviously now, like I still love building those businesses, but I'm also doing the other thing with Connor, which is more of kind of like what I enjoy doing, I think, and it's a good vehicle. It's a sick business.
What did you guys want to be like before you wanted to be like founders or like set up your own businesses? Was there something you wanted to do like in the, I don't know, corporate or like business world other than setting up your own
we used to want to be a horror film director.
Oh, really?
That's mad. I did not
Something
know
like that. I used to love the idea of films. I still want to make a horror film.
You still love films, clearly.
I think building a brand is just like trying to make a film in it, really. Like, I just like the idea of building this aesthetic and feeling that feels like a movie, which is like 1% of the fucking brand. But
you need to spend more time. Lucas, that's what Lucas wants to do. He wants to move all his money from an agency into like, he did film at uni, he wants to be a film director basically. He's fucking good at it as well.
Yeah, I just
really good.
Instinctually, I don't know, I just feel like I get like films and I don't know, that sort of shit. Like the Dream Dust movie was just me indulging that, and Brad made it a reality. But like, I view everything like a movie, which is why I give way too much credit to girls that shouldn't get it, because I view them as like a character in my own movie, quite literally. And then the reality is, they don't exist.
I almost think like your brand is like a.
That's why I did the 80s movies and shit. It's not necessary.
Yeah, it's like,
but it kind of is.
Like becoming a film director is very hard and very low pay until you make it. Becoming a brand owner is kind of the same. It's like constructing this own like thing from your own brain.
Yeah.
And bringing in these ideas to life, but it has more monetary and more like it's more monetizable in today's like economy. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
it's a vehicle to create reality out of ideas, basically.
Which is ultimately what film is, really.
Yeah, so that's probably why I got into branding. Because I like the idea of making movies and shit. And just making shit.
Which I don't have that kind of level. I'm more like, I'm quite like a rational, logical person with limited creativity. Maybe I'm just boring fuck, but...
Yeah, I'm just a creative cunt that got fucking stuck in front of a laptop with shit to do, when really I should just be out making movies. And, well...
There's still time.
I also don't want to be the starving artist type though, so I was very aware of that when I was younger. So I was like, let's try and be a rich creative, which is still the goal.
No idea what I wanted to do, actually, to be honest. What did you want to do when you were younger?
When I was really young, I wanted
to be a chef, actually, when I was like fucking 10.
First business, I wanted to be a hairdresser, so I used to braid girls' hair in the playground and charge them when I was like 8, 9. It was good, like, until I got found out. But I didn't really know either. I think that's why I
had no idea.
Fucked off to Australia, to be honest, because I kind of tried investment banking and things and realised that actually I didn't want to be sat in a room with 200 people who didn't even know my name every day.
Yeah, I went to uni doing economics, but that was just because it was like what I was best at, and went to uni because everybody else went to uni.
That's what I did.
I was just like, but then again, uni was good fun. Taught me a lot of soft skills in life.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a history degree.
Oh,
hasn't been
wild.
super useful.
I'm actually, this is interesting. My brother's currently doing his A-levels, but he's quite different to me, but there's a long story behind this, but I think he's going to come work for me because he's going to sack off his A-levels basically. He's about 6 months from finishing.
Sack off his A-levels?
Yeah, but it's just like...
That's an early dropout.
Are you allowed to do that? Oh, if you're working for something,
yeah. But it's because, like, fundamentally, one, he's not enjoying it, and therefore he's not doing his best at it, and he's quite a switched on person. There's reasons why he's not doing his best at it, which I won't go into. But, like, I think that's becoming more and more of a thing. Like, the online education space and, like, it's definitely becoming bigger, way bigger. And I think it's a lot to do with, like, as much as they're shunned, like, Andy Tate and that lot, like, I don't like him at all. Like, really, I don't really have an opinion on him, to be honest. But, like,
PC.
He's definitely, like, shifted, like, that whole... He is, like fundamentally quite self-development based.
Yeah,
like, the ability to take control of your own life and get your own outcomes. There's a lot of controversial stuff he said, which I don't really know, to be honest. I've not really consumed enough of his content to know any of that. The same with Iman. He's obviously now got, like, a ridiculous following. But again, it's like, that's a lot of...
Let's do a part 2 pod.
Yeah, but that's a lot of, like, younger people's gateway, whether it's right or wrong. It's a lot of young people's gateway into, like, probably longer term a better life than they probably would have pursued, because they realise that they can actually take control of their own learning and take control of their own outcomes. They don't have to just go down this one predefined societal path of doing XYZ education to then get this job, which is definitely a net benefit of those kind of people, regardless of the massive negatives that they may have, which I don't really understand or want to comment on.
I feel like we're lucky to be living in, like, the age of the internet.
Oh, definitely.
Know, like, where you can just go make money online, like, pretty quick if you put your mind to it.
100%.
No.
But yeah, I had no interest in anything entrepreneurial until I met this geezer.
Did you always know you wanted to work for yourself? Kind of
Yeah,
thing?
I think when I was like 8 years old. Didn't know what it would be.
But you just didn't.
Just knew. I can sense.
I kind of disagree with you. I agree with you.
Is that the third? You're on the third bottle. The last time we had 3 bottles on an episode
was probably when I was
was the last episode he was on with Saul, and we spilt a fucking half a bottle of wine.
Any clients watching?
I'm the loosest episode of all time.
No, I think you did. I think you didn't until you went on that work experience with you.
That made it more real, because I'd never met an entrepreneur.
Where was the work experience?
I fucking worked in mergers and acquisitions in Mayfair for 3 months when I was 19.
But that's what I mean. That's one of those things when I said earlier, where if you plot like a life and then you get
I met rich people that weren't footballers or celebrities for the first time ever, and that changed everything. I was like, wow, you can actually do that? What the fuck? So that's the only memory I have of first time thinking that.
Did you like M&A?
No. It was also very boring, because it was
probably hard to like M&A.
It was in the facilities management space in a boutique M&A firm.
Wait, which one? I worked in a boutique M&A firm.
You wouldn't have known it.
I hope you'd be on the other side of that.
I had the managing director on the pod.
I hope you'd be on the other side of that in a few years. You were getting merged into someone.
Well, yeah.
Acquired into someone. Life comes full circle.
Yeah, no, it will, but it was very boring businesses, but it was an interesting space.
Oh.
But yeah, it was very Mayfair and suits and shit, and I just didn't really like that lifestyle.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It was interesting though.
I worked in an M&A firm for a while, and like all the analysts used to cry all the time. So I was like, oh, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, it's grim.
I do think there are people who genuinely enjoy that though. I think, you know, like maybe if you're predispositioned to like that stuff, I don't know.
Cocaine, champagne. Some people like it.
Yeah, it's very like that.
Yeah.
How many more questions?
We have got some more. Oh, this one's about any plans on launching space goods in the Netherlands with actual psychedelics?
Yeah, I do have plans for that, because that's like the next step on my roadmap. My long-term vision has always been ultimately to build a D2C psilocybin / microdosing brand, knowing that that market isn't yet there, but the obvious next step to like do a pilot launch of that would be probably in the Netherlands or Canada, but Netherlands makes more sense. So yes, there is very much a plan to do that. I haven't yet figured out the legality of how to actually do it, but that is the next step towards my vision. So yes,
it's a good idea. You've microdosed, haven't you?
do it fucking every day, lad.
Do you?
Yeah. Show you my cupboard afterwards. My secret little cupboard. I won't bring it to Bali, mind.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
I'll probably feel like shit for 2 weeks. That's the problem.
I've done it a bit. It's good. I do think it is definitely like a fundamental. It is a shift in society. It'll 100% happen in the next. I think it'll happen. It happens with everything. It happens faster than you think it'll happen. Like AI will happen faster than you think it'll happen. Psychedelics will happen faster than you think it'll happen. Well,
I'm just glad I documented me saying this is going to happen. So in 10 years' time, when we're fucking listed on the Nasdaq and I'm worth $14 billion, we can look back at this. So that was a decent little investment.
Yeah.
This is another audience question. The biggest thing you've learnt from your mentors or a mentor?
Mentors. Ooh. That's a good question.
Yeah.
So many things. I'm very fortunate to have many impressive people that have been direct mentors to me, particularly in the past year. I'm trying to think of like a few things.
You've got a lot more direct
still
contacts.
fucking do what the fuck I'm doing.
You've got a lot more direct contacts with much higher level people than I have. So go on, you go first.
I'm trying to think of like there's so many things.
I think I always
so many things.
I always find the things that come from those people usually are so simple. And
it's
like
it's the Kruger curve again. It's so high level that that simple.
It's like oh, you should just do more of what you're good at. and less of what you're bad at, and you should hire more people to do the things you don't enjoy. And then you look at it and you're like, fuck, that was mad. And it's just like, actually it's so fundamentally simple that you're like, why didn't I think of that? But then when you're so in it, you can't like zoom out, which is so like a lot of them come from like very small nuggets. Like I haven't got many tangible examples because I as I say, like I consume a lot of content for when I'm trying to find actionable things, but I usually do like a seek and find mentality of like, I need to solve this problem, so I'll go find it. Whereas you've got a lot more like, you've got a lot wiser network of people and a lot more people who you just talk to generally.
Yeah, there's so many broad and specific things. One thing on a broad level that sticks out is when I last saw Jack, founder of Wayflower, we're both fucking
loose,
very, very loose. So at our house like 2 months ago, and he just said something. It was obvious, but he just said the thing he's learned is that he's not that intelligent. All the really intelligent people come and work for great companies. The less intelligent but more risk-taking people start the companies and make all the money. And like on a big scale, it's so true, isn't it? Because if you're really intelligent and you're not a risk taker, you're never really gonna. You might get a nice 6-figure job and a fucking whatever, but
then you get the
freaks
freaks
like
to
the risk point. You've got to be a fucking loose risk taker to ultimately make that thing that the intelligent people can come and work on. But that was a bit like fluffy. I suppose on a more practical level, which may be more useful, loads of things. I think one thing that's changed the way I look at building a brand is that I've always been 100% D2C in the past, and then the more I actually speak to founders of much bigger businesses, you realise that very few big brands are actually
completely
either all D2C or even majority D2C. Like they seem to make all their fucking profit and real money in retail and wholesale and stuff. And it just got me thinking about sales channels rather than just marketing channels, because I'd always just been marketing channels to my website. But then I look at a certain business and like they're doing less numbers than we are online, but they're a much bigger business because they're doing a fuckload in different channels. And I'm like, wow, wait a minute, I'm probably looking at this the wrong way, because CACs are going up. It's basically very hard to be profitable D2C. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Unless you're kind of mine. Just the truth. So now it's like, well,
yeah,
just looking at trying to mix the channels for everything, sales, marketing. Don't be as reliant on one thing, which is probably what a lot of people are. Like, I certainly was in the past. It was Shopify website, Instagram marketing channel. That was basically it, and I just Chad scaled that. But then if you lose one of them,
you're fucked.
Yeah.
And also diversification increases multiple. It's more stable. It's wholesale is inherently almost like more valuable than D2C. It's way more predictable because, well, I don't know, maybe it's not. I think it's
I'm trying to do more of that.
Yeah. Mine's probably, I had one big revelation in January from a conversation about how to like view business as a whole, and just the fact that you should always zoom out. You should have like, try and get a holistic overview, zoom out, find your bottleneck, focus in.
You said that, I actually wrote that down when you said that.
Relentlessly solve that bottleneck, zoom out and just repeat that process however long you need to. Just do that over and over again and your business will just grow exponentially, because people focus on the wrong shit. People sweat the small stuff. Not every lever is built equally, and it's impossible to work out what lever you should pull until you have that overview of like, where is the bottleneck. Like, you can be printing money on Facebook ads, but you can have no customer service, and you can be losing or you can have no fucking supply chain, and you can get hamstrung by different things. And trying to get that holistic overview of your business is massive. And then similar to what he said, like, you want to surround yourself with people who are better than you at things, and like that's a big thing that one guy taught me, is like you should try, and it also makes it so much more fun when you can learn from people you're around. Like some people I work with are just like ridiculously sick people, and I just love working with them because they teach me so much in different ways. That's kind of a lesson in itself.
Yeah, the other thing that Alex Packham taught me, and it's a whole like phrase I now refer to, is thinking about like how to actually structure the business from the start, like the whole strategic narrative, he said. And I thought it was so interesting. Maybe I've just got obsessed with it, but it's the way you position a business to like investors, but also the market and like yourself, and not just selling products, but like I view this as like a mental health technology company, whereas I could just say, yeah, we fucking sell supplements. Like, which one sounds more valuable to the right people? Do you know what I mean? It's like building the vision of a brand and starting at the end as well, which I've never really done in the past.
Reverse
and
engineer.
If like an exit is a goal or whatever, well, would you need to actually fulfill that, to tick those boxes to make that possible? Because a lot of people probably just Chad scale, and they don't really know what they're actually working towards.
Yeah. And
I think always having something that you could do that you haven't done yet as well is a great narrative, especially when speaking to investors and shit, which I'm doing a lot of. You know, like, if I can say, well, we've done this with one SKU in one country, we haven't even scratched the surface of basic supplements, let alone like fucking the psilocybin market and so on. So just thinking really far ahead of what something could be right from the start.
Reverse engineer,
yeah. Amongst many other things.
Okay, and then I don't know, maybe we'll make this the last one.
Yeah.
That's like 2 hours on the dot, so we can do the last one.
Oh, sweet.
Wait, I want to ask you about your business first.
Oh, God.
You're starting a business, so...
Started.
Well, I was going to ask you, but I wasn't sure if you're allowed to speak about this shit because of...
I can speak about that, I just can't speak about... I'm coming back on the podcast and like, I'll come back and talk about it.
Well, yeah, what are your plans? What are your plans for 2023? Personal, business?
My plans... so I've been building an agency, which I'm calling an operational consulting agency.
I think it's a good position because a lot of people need help with that.
Like, I mean, my background.
Yeah.
No, but like, not even just him. Like, there's so many businesses we work with. We've worked with like probably 200 clients this year. So many of them, they've got great products and they get someone to market it, but then they fall down on ops. So it's a really good position to be in.
I think, like, back to your point about like doing things you love, like I just like fixing problems and I like organising things, as you know.
Yeah, I don't.
Which Matt does not like
so
doing.
many people struggle with that.
Which, yeah, like a lot of people hate, I realise.
Yeah.
So I've been building an agency, hopefully launching properly next year, to be able to help founders in Hong Kong and everywhere in the UK.
Global.
Doing that. But yeah, that's a end of Q1.
Nice. Yeah, definitely come back on. We can go through
The full
ops and we can give Matt a big lesson on operations and
on how like keeping nice tidy folders helps.
Yeah, honestly, like, so many businesses we work with, it's mad how they have like, you know, they'll be doing like fucking 500k a month, and then I'll be like, oh, how do you do X, Y, and Z? And they're like, just got a Gmail inbox, and I'm just like how are you doing this? How are you surviving?
I think that's the thing, like a lot of it's like the boring stuff, right? But I actually enjoy doing that. So
being like systems and operations for like it's almost like a mindset in itself, like documenting processes. It is boring.
I don't do that shit.
It's boring because it's like taking things that you know in your mind, where you think like, oh, I don't need to document this because I just know it. But then it's like, well, I can't remove myself from this process unless I do it. And it's like not many people have that mindset, so I think that's a good value prop.
And it's also like when founders don't want to hire, like I think you said earlier, like you have to have like 90 agencies, right, to run a brand. Yeah. Well, if you need like a different company for every single problem you have, if you can find someone who can do like 10 of those problems at one go.
100%.
In theory.
Yeah.
It saves
in
a lot of
practice, it'll be a lot
time.
harder.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, I did used to have a boring business as well.
What was your boring business?
I used to source packaging.
Oh, that's beautifully boring.
It's so boring.
I love a boring business.
It was really bad. I also sourced like...
You should try and start the most boring business possible, just out of principle.
Just like timekeeping.
Have a competition. Like, you can come up with the most boring business.
Yeah.
We sell pencils to businesses.
It's like the anti-D2C Twitter.
I come from a boring business family. My dad sells envelopes, or he used to, which is like beautifully boring.
Stunningly boring.
Yeah.
Actually quite interesting when you look into it, but not right now.
A lot of SKUs, many different size envelopes. Does he do large packages as well, or just
Amazon? That's
nice.
Custom packaging.
Yeah. Okay. One more question. It was an audience question as well. The one piece of advice you'd give someone setting up a business in 2023.
I'd probably say don't do it yourself, as in that doesn't mean don't found it yourself. That just means
have people
at least know someone else going through a similar path of hell, because it is, and you will suffer. So I think you need to have some people around you doing it. Originally for me, that was like one mate that I knew, Adam, who I'm going to Bali with tomorrow. He was like the OG, and then it was more mates, and then now I guess I have investors as well.
Was that POD Adam?
Yeah, the pod god. The richest man in Leeds.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. So I'd probably just say that broadly. Don't be the only cunt you know doing it.
I don't, it depends, like, I think there's two ways to approach it. There's one, you can find the best vehicle to make money. Depends what you want to do with business. Like, I'm a big proponent of like, you're not going to get fulfillment just from starting a business. Like, you're not just going to get fulfillment from making money. Like, you are short term, and like I think that's still like justifiable. So you can either go and find the best vehicle and start like a service-based business if you've got no money, and start there and make money and then transition into what you want to do long term, or you can write everything you're good at on one side of a piece of paper and everything you're interested in on the other side of paper, and try and find an intersection between that and start a business. There's so many opportunities in the world, like TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Like, if you spend time being fundamentally the best at something, you will make money from it over time. It just depends if you've got that time to work with. If you don't have that time to work with, and you want to get out of like a bad situation, then you should find the best vehicle. You should go and start a service business. If you've got time to work with, you should focus on like honing a craft that you love, and you'll make money out of it. And that could be like cooking, fucking sewing. The top 1% of anything make money. Like if you get to the top of something, regardless of what that is, you will always be successful in that.
Agreed.
It sounds like a bit wishy-washy, but a lot of people but most people are starting this. It's like, I think you should start the vehicle. Most people watching this should probably start something that's low cost, time investment to cash output, and then once they've made enough money to be self-sustaining, then transition into what they want to do. But make sure when they do that, they actually provide a good service, because most people just fucking rinse people for money. And that's why our biggest objection as an agency is I've been burnt by other people before, and that's because people just rinse them for money and just fuck off. So that'd be my broad advice. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. Have you got any New Year's goals? I can tell you mine. I'm trying to reach
resolutions or goals for next year.
Goals. I'm trying to reach 80 kilos lean.
Yeah, I mean, probably not as many. I mean, I'll probably do another marathon, scale the brand. You know, the only goal I didn't hit last year that I wrote last year was I was way off on the podcast. I wrote I want to get to 50,000 subscribers. I mean, you could argue the podcast was the thing I put the least effort into.
I think 50,000 subscribers in this niche is quite hard.
Yeah.
Like my first million's
I'm
got like
not a guru.
They've got like 250,000 subscribers, I think, and they're fucking massive.
So, yeah, I mean, I've split my life goals into categories now, and it's just the brand, the podcast, and fitness. Like, fitness isn't as big a time consume, but I always want to keep that ticking along. So, next year, I just want to grow the fucking brand, stay focused, which I haven't done in the past. Grow the pod, because we've got a good foundation, and I've fucking done a lot of fucking podcasts, and it's a lot of work doing a podcast, to be fair, more than it looks. Especially when you start it like by yourself with no audience. And then, yeah, probably do another marathon. Maybe something after that, I don't know.
Yours?
Nice.
Stay in shape.
Ours is 2.5 mil with saw. I can't give you Connor's numbers. Maybe off the pod.
I already know them.
2.5
Pretty sure
mil,
they're on the last episode.
2.5 mil with saw. 2.5 mil with 4U. Grow Connor's brand to a monster. And do a marathon.
You can do a marathon?
Yeah, but not until like December.
Sub 3?
No chance.
Maybe we should all just do marathons.
What yours?
I think you could do a sub 3.
I think I could maybe next year.
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah, next year. I couldn't do it this year.
Mine, the main one is to grow the Leaf Group, which is my agency. And then I also want to set up a network in Hong Kong. And then those are the main ones, really.
Pool Party Social Club Hong Kong. Yeah.
Can.
Hang on.
Franchise already.
First franchise
already.
Yeah, those are the main ones. And then just, I don't know, I always like to do some sort of fitness challenge.
Yeah, I didn't do enough of that this year.
I did
Underpins your
one.
life as well. Like, it's just like, you can't be fleshy. Fundamentally. It's just bad.
I'll probably fall in love again and have a new fucking like 6 month traumatic courting period, and then I'll write a fucking
Should do
new movie about
Should
it.
do the Twitter Bachelor.
Yeah. Overly romantic.
Yeah. I'm just gonna take over the ending.
No, you can't take over the endings. It's my fucking podcast.
I'll let you end it, but I want to hear everybody else's New Year's resolutions in the New Year's goals.
comments.
How do we boost the engagement on these fuckers?
You
Like
ask
and
them for
subscribe.
comments. You ask them
Better
for
thumbnails. Yeah.
call outs.
Yeah, so New Year's resolutions or whatever the fuck you're working on in the comments, and the shit you want to see in 23, because I know it was fairly consistent last year, but this year it's going to be more consistent.
And who you want to see as well, right?
Yeah, and who.
Any suggestions, put it in the comments. And well, I guess thanks for watching in 2022, which is quite mad.
I just had an idea.
Go on.
You could do like live pod episode at Pool Party Social Club.
Oh, we could.
Yeah, we
So
can
like a
record
booth.
it
Yeah,
live.
like-
in and out.
Yeah, and have a live audience.
The world's most immersive podcast entrepreneurial community.
Yeah, in honestly, any suggestions of
For
how we
sure.
can make this better?
Oh,
are
and also I'm
welcome.
starting a newsletter, so go and put, go and
you've
put your
got-
fucking email in below.
If you've got 2 hours into this shit, like you
And
must
you're
have some
still
good
here.
ideas of how you can make this better. So if you've got them, hit the comments.
Yeah.
Whether that's in person, podcast guests, questions, anything, hit the comments and we'll do them.
And with that bombshell, Thanks for watching the pod. As always, subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. Cheers for watching. Peace.